Good evening, everybody. It's a later start. I feel like I always apologize for that on Mondays in particular. We did get the first round of quality options, though, so that's good news. No excuses for today. It just so happens that, my God, what is happening to my memory usage? I don't think that will be a problem for this stream. Sorry, I feel like I'm repeating the same problems over and over again. My antivirus is saying that there isn't anything going on the computer, but I have quite a bit of RAM in this computer, and I notice it really has a strong tendency to go to, like, with a couple browser windows open, I'm at like 78% utilization. Something is using that memory. Anyways, yeah, so no real excuses save for the fact that I needed to get dinner. I was a little bit later starting. I'm currently getting a logging in on Planetfall. I'm curious if that's just going to do that in perpetuity. Let me quit it out and try it again. But yeah, it's one of these things I've been trying, particularly with work from home. So I'm one of these lucky people who can can stay at home. And largely I have. I mean, Canada hasn't exactly been doing great work as far as following the guidelines. Excuse me. Okay, now it's on the wrong monitor. Sorry, it's this is going to be a little complicated of a start, it looks like. So, I can't control how other people behave. You guys have heard me complain about this in the past. I don't take the bus anymore because it's one thing for for the transit authority to put a guideline that says, you have to have a mask to ride. But if the drivers aren't going to enforce people wearing those masks, and if people are just pulling those masks around their chin the second that they get on the bus, this is nothing. Like this is not going to protect anyone. And so in this case, I just abstain from the sorts of things that will make me a problem. Okay, so let's deal with this monitor thing first. Now, I thought display 1 was... Okay, apparently it's display 2. Looks like I don't need to reset anything though. Let's just make sure all the other settings are where they need to be. I'm liking the new music. It's still bittersweet for me in terms of the... I don't think I need VSync on. I believe the whatever the hell I guess it's G-Sync if it's NVIDIA. I believe that should handle... I could overdo the resolution. I think that's gonna mess up the stream though. Let's just keep it where it needs to be. So yeah. Anyways, I'm babbling on. So I'm a bit lucky in the sense that I get to sort of stay at home as far as work is concerned. I go out for walks. I go out to get groceries. But I do also think it's important to try and make sure that I do that sort of thing, and also just kind of try and keep a routine. I've had a couple of times where I found it very easy to fall into my old Vancouver habits of being up very, very late and then just waking up at sort of an equivalent late time, which is fine if you don't have those kinds of obligations. But the fact of the matter is, my job has standard hours, and at some point I'm going to need to come back to those. So. All of this is to say, I am trying to keep a sense of normal. I actually have a lot of stuff that's coming up and I'm looking forward to doing. But it also means that I used to do things like sort of either skip dinner or I would like order in if I thought I was running behind on a stream. And I noticed that just resulted in me spending a lot of money ordering stuff in. And I mean, the food isn't... It's kind of like, everybody knows that if you cook for yourself, usually the food is better and it's healthier for you. And I sort of was starting to look at the idea of ordering in to do streaming to be an extra cost for streaming. And if anything, the revenues from streaming have gone down, so I should be cutting those costs, not expanding them. So, anyways, that's my excuse. I'm trying to take care of myself, and sometimes that means pushing to the 8 o'clock end of the 7 to 8 window. Now, we're doing Star Kings. So I wanted to spend some time. I still have 5 minutes left in sort of the opening 10 minutes to get my little preamble done. The paradox situation's complicated. I think this is probably going to be the end of the press keys unless something changes. And it's, I'm very grateful for the time that it's happened, but the fact of the matter is, like, I'm not getting replies to emails at this point. Respectfully worded emails, not, all capital letters and stuff like that. And that was the reason why there was a dedicated Paradox Monday. If that cuts off, then, in this case, it just seems that I'll put it to a Strategy Monday, let's say. But it has sort of been maybe, let's say, a moot point as far as Planetfall is concerned, because it seems that when they sent out the key for Invasions, what it was a season pass. And so in this particular case here, technically I was not, like, I didn't ask for, or I wasn't given a direct email saying, hey, would you like to promote Star Kings? But for all intents and purposes, as with Planetfall, as with Revelations, as with Invasions, I think it is a fair statement to say that I was given a copy of Star Kings for promotional purposes. And while I don't think there's even any way for me to, like, mark this as getting credit for having covered the game, one, it seemed like the decent thing to do. Two, I'm actually very interested in Planetfall. I like the game quite a bit. I'm certainly not pulling back on Paradox stuff if the keys stop because I dislike the games. It's just more a realization that being able to keep on the treadmill of DLC, there's a certain point where I need to wonder about, why am I spending so much money to play the latest version of the game when, I'm, that kind of used to be a thing that was happening before. So, for all intents and purposes, there's probably going to be a lot of Planetfall coming down, kind of coming down the assembly line to match up to the current image. We've got the Star Kings campaign. After that, we have the Syndicate and the Assembly missions to do, then the final mission. And then for Revelations, we did the first mission, but we didn't actually do the follow-up mission in Revelations. So we actually completed the Shikaran story. We didn't complete Revelations. I think part of that was a recognition that it seems to take place in order, so I probably should finish the campaign before I do anything else. But, it's nice to try the new stuff, right? So we will be doing Star Kings. I'm putting the main campaign on hold again, but basically we've got 2 other races plus the final campaign. We've got Star Kings to go through, and I suspect what's going to happen with Revelations is that I'm not just going to have Revelations, the second mission to do. I suspect I'm going to have to do the first one again. So that's a lot of material, given that these campaign missions are nice and long, at least when I do them. On top of that, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's coming up on the stream in future. So on Wednesday, I wanted to do Cloudpunk, but there's actually something that got released very recently and I got a key for. And it's I won't say local anymore, but it's a developer who I admire quite a bit. And it's someone who's Canadian, so I'm looking forward to being able to promote that. And then I think so I had my grand list. I'm actually starting to wipe things out. For those of you who weren't there, we finished off Mass Effect. I really enjoyed the ending of Mass Effect 3. I understand that was an unpopular ending on release, but all I can say is I really don't care what gamers' opinions are anymore, and I haven't for a while, so it does not surprise me that I had a different reaction to that than the others. But I enjoyed the process of going through that. I'd be interested in knowing whether or not other people kind of prefer this more focused attention on a single game and sort of moving on through them rather than just sort of nibbling at a few games all at once. But in addition to this particular game, I've decided that I'm going to put my list of things I'd like to complete possibly on hold, And I think what I'll probably wind up doing is, in addition to this mystery game, which you'll see on Wednesday, I'm probably going to jump back into Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, and I've really been wanting to do more Industries of Titan, and there have actually been a couple of major updates since we've covered that game last, and so I think that would be a particularly good time to get back into that, because I suspect it won't be too long before it's out of early access and everybody's sort of able to see the wonder that Brace Yourselves Games has brought in. And then, of course, Age of Wonders Planetfall isn't going anywhere. So those are my plans so far. So yeah, I will say, it's always been fun to get a new DLC, but always a bit bittersweet, because I'm actually still very fond of the original Age of Wonders Planetfall title screen music. It's this wonderful, brassy start. It really sets the mood. And then, Revelations had a very different kind of approach. It was still a good opening theme, but it didn't quite hype me the same way that Planetfall did. Invasions was a little bit more synthy, which I'm always fond of synthesizers, so it's kind of hard for me not to like that. And Star Kings has sort of gone a little bit closer to the more aspirational original theme, but in this case it is still very I'd sort of say it's kind of the halfway point between the original theme to Revelations, and sometimes I just want to hear that those opening lines. I actually still have the music on my music player, so I occasionally I'll put it on for the fond memory. So let's I'll stop dawdling. Let's go to I got to do new campaign here because we're going to be jumping into Star Kings. And what are we looking at here? So we've got Equisat of Verdris. An aspiring paladin is sent to the protection of a lost colony. So the species is the Oathbound. The Oathbound are a feudal society led by wise seers and their predictions of the future, guiding the honor-bound paladins in their powerful battle suits to maintain order. Starting bonus, extra terrain revealed near the starting colony. Long-term bonus, positive reputation modifiers last 50% longer. Battle suits use arc-based melee attacks. Seers manipulate probability to control the battlefield. Use of arc and entropy damage channels, so it looks like entropy is a new damage type. Racial ability, Oathbound heroes can link to colonies for economic bonuses. Okay, I'll be interested in seeing where that goes. So Celestian, the Celestians are, we've of course had Celestians with the Amazon recently, so this should hopefully be familiar territory. The Celestians are an ancient order of psionically gifted individuals that strive to achieve inner enlightenment and create balance and harmony in the universe. They believe psionic power comes from the stars and use this power to protect their ideals and teachings. Starting unit Lightbringers sway enemy soldiers and colonists to your cause. Now, I've never actually quite been able to pay off on that. NPC diplomacy bonuses, strong morale buffing and damage reflection, uses psionic and thermal damage channels. Here we've got perks, so Paladin Protector Vehicle. The Protector is a melee-focused battlesuit vehicle made specifically to protect its allies. You have the following skill. Piloting enables the commander to ride basic vehicles and mounts. The loadout includes your Protector, which possesses a powerful melee arc capability, and the Volt Pistol, which that when used causes arc damage to a single target. We have got Skilled Diplomat. Your natural charisma and sympathetic personality led you to a life in the diplomatic corps. What others achieve through violence, you achieve through flattery and negotiation. All right, I'm really interested in where this is going. Charismatic, you start with a plus 300 relation with all races, excluding your own. Fast Talker, influence costs for bribing armies to leave sectors is reduced by 35%. Energy cache, you were deployed with a large energy cache. In Wise Hands, this can be used to facilitate rapid expansion. So this is one that I sort of struggle with. You've noticed that the last few times I played this game, I've actually had some difficulty really taking advantage of an early energy bonus. I tend to take a while to ramp up, and no difficulty. So I'm going to, against my better judgment, go up to medium. Sometimes I get clobbered when this happens, but I'm not going to learn if I don't raise the challenge.
I pledge myself, from now and forever, to the protection and needs of the weak and the poor. As a paladin, I shall heed the wisdom of the seers, and beware the voices of greed and immodesty that will tempt me to put myself above others. I swear to use this battlesuit to sow order where the Star Union's fall reaped chaos, and to capture peace where the Cataclysm liberated war. From this day on, I am an Oathbound. After Reiki Arathorn's heroic sacrifice on Atrium Alpha, the High Palladius and his seers have started to look for a worthy soul to succeed Arathorn in the Circle of Heroes. They announced a calling of bravery, a friendly strife where aspiring paladins can compete to prove their virtue and courage. I am among the few chosen ones admitted to its final stage. The last round of the tournament takes me to the Ekisa of Vertruis, a rural planet once engineered by the Star Union to become a hyper-fertilized farming center. Like my competitors sent to other planets, I have been asked to seek out our existing colonies on the Ekisa of Vertruis, shield its citizens from all danger, and build up a flourishing enclave of peace and prosperity. An accompanying seer will be my judge of honor.
Okay, I'm liking this. I know when
Our transport is nearing the orbit of our destination. Even from up here, we can see the vast patches of the fields once harvested by the Star Union. I don't know yet what exact challenges will await me on the surface, but the citizens of the Ekisa of Vertruis are now under my vowed protection. On my honor, protect them I shall.
It's kind of funny when this trailer came out. I think a lot of people were talking about how the Eldar were had finally come to Age of Wonders Planetfall. I'm thinking this is Space Bretonia, but perhaps there are other games other than Games Workshop, and maybe we don't want to make all these comparisons. So, small map, large landmass, 18% water, 82% land. Objectives: find and protect the Oathbound settlements. And I suspect there will probably be, much like most of the campaigns, something that throws me off of this objective. So this will be fun. I'm interested in where this is going, to say the least. I also really like the colony. I don't know. I love the personality of this game. I think, you know, every spaceship, every unit type, just really, for some reason, it just really kind of speaks to me, and it has a lot of character inside of it. It's one of my favorite things about the game, completely independent of the mechanics, which have changed quite a bit, by the way. So we were talking a little bit about this last week. There's the new Empire mode, which I'm not 100% sure, but it sort of seems to be... this is one of the things that I think is so interesting about Planetfall. We were talking, hey, Crack Steve, you heard the word spaceship, and you have been summoned. How you doing tonight? So I think one of the things that really caught my attention... Actually, if you just got here, you missed the colony ship landing. It looks a little bit like a castle. It's kind of neat. So I think one of the things that really strikes me, and we were talking about this last week when somebody stopped by asking what the campaign is like. So the thing that I like the most about Age of Wonders Planetfall is how the campaign takes advantage of the fact that the AI doesn't care if it loses. Well, okay, it cares in the sense of it will play to win, but it's not going to get upset with you if you win 100% of the battles or 100% of the games that you play. It's always going to be back to play for another session. And clearly, if you do that in a a game that's multiplayer based, that will mean that there's probably some flaw in the balance somewhere, that people are not enjoying it, and you'll likely lose your players, and ultimately there will be nobody to play with, let alone whatever implications that has for sales, of course. So one of the things that I liked about Age of Wonders Planetfall is the fact that if you want the civilization experience, if it's like I want to do a map and I maybe want to have some customization on it, and I just want to play Planetfall to one of the standard victory types, you've always had that option from the base game. What I like, though, is that on top of that, the campaign actually puts things inside that say you can only do this in a single player game meaningfully. And again, it's anyone's guess as to whether or not Planetfall gets further expansions. it looks to me like the game has sort of sold a bit less than Age of Wonders 3. Of course, a lot of that's also going to reflect humble bundles and whatnot. So I don't know how the game is in relation to what Paradox's expectations were for it, but it's maybe worth pointing out that if we look at the other games where there's sort of been this the season pass, if you look at BattleTech, if you look at Surviving Mars, it's basically been a season's pass worth of content. You've got 3 DLC that come out. Same with BattleTech and Surviving Mars, and then generally the new thing. They've moved on to the new thing. So in the case of Hamimont, they're doing an entirely different game for another company. In the case of Harebrained Schemes, they were acquired by Paradox, but they're working on, from what I understand, is a new IP, so it probably won't be resurrecting any of the old FASA stuff. So apologies to fans looking for Earth Dawn. If that pattern holds, then it would stand to reason that this would be the last DLC for Planetfall. This is not based off of a developer log or anything like that. Your guess is as good as mine. But what I think is interesting about this one is that they've added this Empire mode, and this sort of seems to be the halfway point. Again, I haven't played it yet, but it sort of seems to be a sequence of sort of planet-based battles, but there's a degree of persistence between it, so you can kind of gain this reputation. And essentially what you wind up doing is you sort of wind up building up this string of conquests and the ways that it'll sort of affect your access to certain units and whatnot. It looks like a really interesting mode, and I'm looking forward to digging into it, because I think this is a great way that they've been able to capture some of the things that are interesting about the way that they handle campaigns, but to do it in a way that they don't need to constantly be, dedicating resources. So, the team is going to be able to work on other things, whether that's another Age of Wonders Planetfall game or expansion or something else entirely. Basically, we're no longer relying on basically Triumph putting time and effort into making more adventures in this world. We actually get something like a campaign that's being generated through sort of our play, which I think is interesting. All right. Eluna Leones. Each step on a planet blessed by this Sedulos? Sorry, I want to look that up. Sedulos of person or action showing dedication and diligence. Neat. Each step on a planet blessed by the Sedulos presence of the populace feels like a breath of fresh air. Watching the land unfold in the meadows and lush fields stretching far into the horizon instills me with a sense of peace I haven't felt in a long time. It reminds me of the Fifth Noble Command in the Code de Keys. A paladin must at all times value and protect the work of the common man, for who will bake the bread without flour, or grind the flour from an empty granary when the farmer to work the fields was driven from his land and murdered in tyranny? Wouldn't you agree that this is indeed our honest duty, Rascal? I am not tasked with agreeing or disagreeing with anything you might say, young examinee. My role as a judge of honor is to observe, not to interfere, and right now I am observing that the paladins of the Equisat of Verdis have not kept our appointment, with none of their representatives in sight. Settlements. You are right. We haven't heard back from any of them since we landed. Let us hope that their silence is caused by a technical failure, and that your quick judgment of character will turn out to have been premature once their representatives arrive. A seer never judges prematurely. The wisdom of Oracle makes sure of that. Just remember that the judges on the other planets will compile their own chronicle of deeds, and that your reputation will be weighed against that of the other contestants when the time to end the calling of bravery has come. I shall keep that in mind, Rascal. Thank you. But I already received my greatest reward when I was entrusted with the safety of the people of this planet. If we accept this strife as the friendly competition that it is, we will all be winners. A true paladin is measured by their selfless acts of bravery. Reaching a virtuous reputation will prove that you can take care of your people. Hint: to increase your reputation, make peace and later alliances with the NPC factions or other players, and help the population of the Oathbound settlements with their problems. The Oathbound settlers were supposed to send a delegation to your welcome. They aren't answering your transmissions either. Send your scouts to their settlement to find out if they are in trouble. So we have 3 bases. Damister, Nordzal, and Truchet. What are we looking at in terms of... Oh, that's right. They don't get... I'm used to Age of Wonders... not Age of Wonders. I am used to... Endless Legend, where the quests tend to sort of get picked. Oh, but we do have markers here. So 1 to the right, 1 to the bottom left, and 1 to the top left. So they are a bit spread out. 3 turns. Much more than 3 turns. And again, much more than 3 turns. It probably would not be a bad idea to... yeah, so being able to talk to the growth would be sort of nice. I'm also trying to think about some of the best ways that I can expand. Okay, so we've got Townsend Folly. There's the Organic Food Compound 5. Now that's owned by the Growth, so I'm going to have to tell them to F off if I want to expand out. But that would not be a bad expansion plot. We'll have up to 4, although we'll get more eventually. So I'm just trying to think what's the best way for me to expand out. I don't believe I can go more than 2 away, so I don't think we're going to be able to get that Cosmite. So we could do 1, 2 for ridiculous amounts of food. 3. We'd even get a little science out of that, actually. This is also tempting, so something like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm really just trying to justify moving into this area so I can clear out the baddies. Okay. This is going to be the long way to the... Oop. Light of the stars, give a voice to my thoughts and clarity to my mind. Let me leave this carnal prison behind and travel to the heart of an enlightened soul. Reverend Nakri, I know I should not disturb your peace from this far a distance, but I am in need of your wisdom and guidance. Apprentice Aluna, evidently you are still in the best command of your exceptional talents. Only a few people within our order have ever mastered the ability to project a psionic link to another planet. So your visions have returned? Yes, Reverend, and they felt more lifelike than ever before. Yet I couldn't recall any of their content when I awoke. You once told me that the Kiriko have dream readers to help their people discern the meaning of their ancestral dreams. Maybe you could guide me through my visions in a similar way? The psionic techniques of the Kiriko are a unique subject worthy of study, though nigh inaccessible for other races. You should put more trust in the meditation methods developed by our order. When followed truthfully, they will guide you into the light that you seek. Find a tranquil place to meditate in the Celestian ways and recall recurring dreams that have been troubling your mind. Okay. So this gives me another reason to go into this area. That's nice. But most of all, I want to just see how these units work. Okay, so of course I could do an auto combat, but I'm not going to learn anything about my units here. So let's do manual. And for those of you who don't like me just reading everything, I am going to need some time to figure out these units. And I figure it won't hurt for a refresher on the units I'm up against. Okay, so first up we have got the indentured. The Naku family purchased my family's debt. It originated from my great-grandfather. When he failed to profit from the venture, the debts fell into collection for up to 5 generations. That's the terms. I pay it off through indentured servitude. I do what they want, fight or die. I belong to the owner. Many folks lost their livelihoods when the Bloody Star Union crashed. I don't blame anybody, really. I live. Many didn't survive. So that's that. I'll do whatever it takes to pay down the principal, even wield a gun. Zircon Mark, RV 3499F, Memoir of One Indentured. So these guys have arc attacks, psionic resistance, You can sort of take a look at some of these, like things like discipline and whatnot. It's not bad. The problem is that I tend to wind up getting losing sort of the forest for the trees whenever I do this sort of stuff. So if there's an overseer, dodge the critical hits by focusing on that. I should keep in mind the special abilities because those do tend to catch me by surprise. But basically, a range 7 pulse repeater. This is one of these reasons why I wouldn't necessarily want to just go running into their front lines, because this thing can hurt. The power blast, fire powerful short range blast. This unit enters defense mode afterwards, and it does stagger. So here's the overseer, Psytech staff, status effect resistance. Cerebral override is one of these things that turns indenture, or actually any target. No, it's hang on, am I missing? Yeah, there we go. Suffers 5 psionic but regains all of their action points, gains stagger immunity, and its health cannot be reduced below 1 until the start of their next turn. Doesn't work on indentured that are unable to move and take action. So this thing is ridiculously powerful in the right hands. The Psytech staff actually winds up being pretty tough because of the psionic ability. So if I feel like I'm going to be throwing someone into the overseers, it would help if I had a lot of shields, not a lot of armor. And then they also heal. So one of the great things you can do with these guys is you get your 3 shots with the indentured, you cerebral override them, and then you get another 3 shots with them. And then if the enemy tries to take them down to 1, they still won't die. You can still use Psytech revitalization on them. So overseers are a bit of a priority target in those contexts. Oh, sorry, we didn't read the lore. If I had to choose order or profits, I'd choose profits. Profitability is paramount. Order is something you can purchase with sufficient profit. As an overseer, I can unlock a man's profitability. Developers, engineers, and tech workers are paid to do their job, but even the best worker is but a resource to be used. Their lives don't matter unless they produce a profit. It is the nature of the common worker to be undisciplined. With the Psytech powers I've mastered, I inspire discipline. Indentured are my best tools. For me, they fight even when exhausted. Valorix Snow, RV9000F, Horde Management. Finally, we've got the Devar Trencher. They've got kinetic damage. So one thing that would make this potentially a bit tricky to handle is the fact that they've got a whole bunch of different types of weapons. But again, it's the first round. I can't really build against that. So the Spike Gun is a single action weapon. Fire gun at the target. Damage increases by 20% when the unit stands within a trench, which they are. Shield Bash is a physical attack. It also knocks back and staggers. Entrench is what they already used, and then exposed flanks. Flanking attacks against this unit will ignore up to 2 armor, but I believe they can't be flanked when they are entrenched. I may be wrong about that. These guys are going to be a little difficult to pull out of their position. So now we know what we're up against. Let's take a look at the units that we have. So we've got Rascal the Seer, Watcher. Imagine if we could harness these Seers' ability to predict fate. Clearly it's not tech, not magic, though they want you to think that. Sorry, clearly it's tech, not magic, though they want you to think that. This is all that stands between us and galactic dominance. Yet how can we steal from one that sees what we're going to do before what you're going to do before you do it? Even their low-level watchers see our weaknesses, always learning, constantly recording our attempts at espionage. Then they hit us with their curse of adversity and and then they observe as our plots fall apart on their own. Lady K of Syndicate House T, RV347223, Fate and Destiny. So this is a hero unit, I believe. No, maybe not. So Entropic Lash. I can't remember what type of damage this is. Lash an enemy with an entropic... Oh yeah, Entropy. That's a new damage type. Lash an enemy with an entropic wave. This wave can jump at 2 additional targets within 2 hexes. 20+% damage against units with soul burn. Sedate. 8 strength chance to apply slow movement. And 30% reduced accuracy for 3 turns. We've got the Gift of Providence. So this thing requires a single action. Gift of Providence. Target friendly unit gains Providence for 1 turn, making all of its attacks critically hit. That's ridiculous. Lash of Adversity. Target enemy unit gains adversity for 1 turn, making all of its attacks fumble. This attack can jump up to 2 additional targets within 2 hexes, so these guys are insane against clustered units. Curse of Fatalism. Target enemy gains Fatalism, making it 100% easier to hit and making it fail all of its resistance checks for 2 turns. Enlightened Record Keeper. All units in the stack except Seers gain 25% bonus experience. Shield of Remorse. So that's going to come from the defense mod. Ral's Manuscript is what gives it Curse of Fatalism. And Sedating Decay component. So that's where the Sedate comes from. Okay. So these guys are reasonably spaced, I believe. I don't... Oh no, actually, if we were to lash out at the Devar... I think they get the retaliation is the problem, but... And this wouldn't count as cover. Oh, right, because they're flying. Okay. So we've also got the Scryer. Normally I distrust powerful organizations. Absolute power corrupts. But if the Oathbound discovered the perfect... what if the Oathbound discovered the perfect technology for a perfect society? I was wary of the Scryers hovering around our homes, but then it warned me that I was using a meat grinder. It flashed a vision of me turning my hand into sausage because I assembled the safety guard improperly. It's stuff like that. They warn me about danger before it happens. What oppressive society cares so much for its lowliest citizens enough to protect them from their own stupidity? The Oathbound are all right by me. Beaver McSnubbins, RV93824C, testimonials. Oh, man. Like I said, the writing on this game is kind of one of the secret weapons. Okay, so a repeating entropy attack, gift of precognition, target friendly unit gains 1 stack of precognition, negating the next direct damage attack to hit it. Oh. But arc weakness, which means I want to be careful. So the ideal here would be, so in a perfect world, these guys would be charging after the Overseer because of their psionic resistance. But of course, to get there, I'm going to have to be going through the... I'm going to have to be going against the indentured. So there is one thing that I can try here. Actually, you know what? Let's... No, you know what? All right. So I'm still not in their range if I do this. So what I'm going to try and do here is inflict some debuffs on the enemy, but without having to worry about... Yeah. So there we go. Now they're going to fumble everything. So this basically has opened the gate for my main force to sort of run in without too much worry. So Luna, Leon, Volt Saber. So strike an enemy with an arc charge saber, can hit either ground or air units. Embolden, all friendly units within a 2-hex radius heal for 15 and lose all psionic status effects. Additionally, Tier 1 and Tier 2 units gain heroism until the end of combat, making their attacks deal more damage to higher tier units. Ooh. Once per battle, Volt Pistol, fire at target, single action, and defense mode. This unit ends its turn and goes into defensive mode. It grants itself and all adjacent allies 2 shields. It also becomes 25% harder to hit and cannot be flanked. So I guess this is the nice thing about this unit. I know I can't make the distance, but what I can do is I can just sort of run up as close as I... Well, actually, this will be the interesting problem. So I already know all of these are going to fumble. So the question would be, do I want to try and protect my people on these moves, or do I want to try and close the distance as quickly as possible? Next turn, run some of my people in and set up my defenses. I guess we'll figure that out as we learn more about my abilities. So same story here with the Paladin Protector. We've got a Paladin Aspirant. Lots of us Vanguard turn to the Oathbound. Pay is the same, but the citizens respect you. I don't police people, I serve them. We neutralize local hostilities, but even lethal tech stuns first. Advancement is trust-based, rather than a race for who can hoard enough power to take control. Those caught abusing power either leave or are demoted to Aspirant to relearn a Paladin's core mission. Service before self. I am myself protecting the innocent instead of kissing up to high-ranking whack jobs that want me to prove my loyalty by abusing vulnerable populations. Walter Jones, RV-246014M, recruitment. So Volt Pike, again melee, Volt Blast, shoot a bolt of lightning at an enemy. We've got against all odds, 5% evasion for every enemy within 2 hexes of itself. First strike. Cool. So, I mean, the big challenge here is a lack of range, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Okay, so, well, now I found the range. Oathbound Paladin Lightbringer, mid tavern. This masked being mid-tavern, this masked being announces, I see light, I am enlightened, I bring light to you. Apparently, some folk at the bar didn't want to be enlightened. They got rough. Off comes her gloves. Rather than the typical skin, this Lightbringer's has hot glowing coals for hands. She jumps up and strikes her foe. There's a fiery blast. I dove behind the bar, crawling for the kitchen door. I don't think the ruffian infidels escaped the wreckage. The poor tavern owner. He's now the proud owner of an ash heap. Mareg Nib, RV38347X, Tales from Fallen Worlds. I think I've actually read this one before for a different unit. This is Arc Week. But psionic resistance, burning great bow, so single action and can stagger though. Burning banner, shoot a flying burning banner at target air hex, dealing damage to adjacent enemy ground and flying units. And inspiring warden ends its turn, goes into a defensive mode. 200. Okay. So I suppose the first move I want to do here is to find out whether or not this Lightbringer is going to be able to. No. And the Scryer. The thing is, I don't really have a whole lot to fear from the Overwatches right now because of the fumbles. So I think I'm going to set my archer up behind cover. That might have line of sight implications, but we'll see it. I think at this point, just running my... Yeah, that's nothing. I think there's a similar story to be told here. Now, it'd be nice if I could have got a stagger in, but I don't think that's realistic right now. Ah, I should have thought of that. Alright, so that was definitely a lot more damage than I thought I was going to be taking. What I want to do with this melee unit here is actually just run in, and so I could do a ton of damage if I go like right up to the face. But what I want to do is have enough. Actually, you know what? Let's think this through. So let's start with So I'm going to do an attack here. Sadly, this guy's just shy of where I need him to be, so... Okay, so I'm gonna reserve my I'm gonna reserve this unit for later. So what I really want to do right here is tie up as many of these units as I can. So it'd be really nice to be able to like hit these guys twice. But what's a little more important to me right now is to be able to get those advantages of kind of locking people into my like into these Overwatch attacks. So there's a little less damage than I was hoping for. Now, let's see what I can do about... So I gotta do something to protect this unit, which is a little too vulnerable in their current position. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to pull them straight back. Okay, so I've already used up the Lash of Adversity. I could try Gift of Providence or Curse of Fatalism, but it's not so obvious. It's maybe not so obvious that that this is the attack I need, let's say. So in this case, I think I'm going to take the extra damage bonus from the flanking. And now the real question. So I could probably wipe this guy out. I'm more curious, though, if I can do... Yeah. I'm not too worried about these guys right now. I think if they do something, the Overwatch is going to take them out. So I do need to do something about that Devar unit, though. Now, this guy potentially does cause me some problems. Alright. I'm going to rely on my allies to be able to take these folks out. I do want to try and do whatever I can to sort of minimize the effects. Okay, so I think this is going to suck a bit for this unit. If I were the AI... Now, again, the Overwatch might be saving me here. If I were the AI, I would want to do a Cerebral Override on one of these guys and use them to do the maximum amount of damage. So ideally, Cerebral Override this unit so that we can take out one of the sentries. That might still happen. But we'll see how the game handles it.
As the Oracle foretold.
All right. I'll admit that was unexpected. So now I should have known it because we talked about that ability, but obviously that's got some consequences for my ability to fight. Okay, so here's how I'm going to handle this. This is going to seem a little counterintuitive. I'm going to run in here, and I'm going to embolden. This is so I can get the health up. This guy's got to wipe out the Overseer.
Enemy eliminated.
That Devar is going to be hard to get my hands on. So maybe what I want to do is use the Burning Greatbow. You know what, before I do any of that, Move a little closer and just lash him. Okay, so this unit's not going to be able to reach the Devar. So let's just mop them up.
Enemy
Okay,
killed.
I think I know how I'm going to handle this. I want to try and get as much of this health back as I can. So if I do the Embolden. Okay, that still works. I'm actually going to move one back. You'll see the reason for that in a minute. No! Okay, so my choices are Burning Banner. I don't think that's worth it here. Now, originally, I was going to try the Gift of Precognition, and this was so that I could prevent one of the units from taking damage. It is possible that they will go after my commander again, but it's not guaranteed. So rather than trying to predict who's going to take the damage first, I'm just going to take the 1 in 4 chance of wiping this unit out, and that eliminates all the damage. And it turned out.
Outcome.
So, a blunder in the sense that I let my commander take a lot more damage than planned. I need to respect the fact that the enemy is able to remove debuffs. But it does seem that a lot of these abilities are pretty strong. So, production resources moved to Townsend Folly. Should we build a central science lab or a military skirmisher barracks? Now, the central science lab is not the sort of thing I would normally build at the start, so we're going to do the skirmisher barracks. But it does raise the question about how I want to be spending my time in terms of building, in terms of building my infrastructure. So let's get that started now. I can go for the extra energy. I can go for extra energy, industry, science, which I've already said I don't necessarily want. I tend to go for the central biofarm first, just so that I can get my population up and maximize the number of resources. But as I was saying, one of the problems with this approach, maybe not. It's a tough call. Nah, I'll spread it. I think I'll spread it evenly. Yeah, so the drawback I have is that it usually does take me a while to sort of ramp up my my bases, and I think one of the reasons for that is I spend so much time building up my industry and not necessarily building up my armies. But we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how well I handle it. So this guy actually has some pretty fair distance. Olaf, thank you very much for the host. How you doing tonight? Now, I should maybe explain why I didn't do this right away. So this is... Hey, and a resub! You're giving me all the gifts tonight, Olaf. How you doing? Thank you very much for that. I don't always... See, one of the problems I run into with Olaf, and it's a nice problem to have, is that I always refer to Olaf as a mod for Miss Ariella. But, of course, the thing here is that that is not... Like, this is not what Olaf was brought into this world to do. It's how I know them. But they are, in fact, a human... I am told they're a human being in their own right, and that they're pretty decent guys. So you get a chance to see who they are inside of the chat. Yeah, I mean, I always Ariel is somebody who I met in Vancouver, actually through the efforts of trying to trying to meet different streamers, trying to get in touch with the local community there, with mixed success. But Ariella was definitely somebody who was fun to chat with, and so of course I'm going to know Olaf through his tireless modding in the in the channel. But I've been very happy to have them hang up. And Rouge Light Girl, how are you doing? It's wonderful to see you as well. I hope you've been keeping all right. I know I suspect your particular line of work is going to be particularly troublesome with the state of the world. You're great. That's excellent news. Very glad to hear that. But yeah, one thing I wanted to say is I'm actually coming fairly late to this game. I believe this was released on Tuesday, so I noticed Alex the Rambler has already played this. There's a few people I noticed who covered it already. I don't know what their impressions were. Again, I'm kind of antisocial when it comes to this sort of stuff, and I just do my thing. But I've been enjoying this first look at. I was gonna call this stream title "First Look at Star Kings," but then I try not to think too much about what people are gonna say about like YouTube labels and all of that, but with that in mind, I don't want to actively poke the bear either. So I think most people would take that as being like, the first ever look at Star Kings as opposed to my first look, which is what I mean. And so I decided to adjust the title accordingly. New Zealand's doing pretty decent now, so you're going to be picking up some more work. Excellent work. Excellent news. I'm glad to hear that you're doing all right. Anyways, that's my answer to your question, Olaf. I am really interested in Star Kings so far. We're an hour in, but of course I have a lot of preamble at the start, so I'm still on my first turn. But this new faction is definitely a neat one. Alright, victory condition, calling, and bravery. You can win this map by finding and protecting the Oathbound settlements while earning a higher reputation than the other contending paladins. Rascal the Seer must survive. If you lose your Judge of Honor, it will surely fall back on you. The protection of the planet would become another paladin's duty, making you lose the mission. Okay, I think I am ready to lock this in. Maybe one other thing I might want to try. No, I do not have a chance to talk to the Growth. Okay, we'll leave it. Oh, I wouldn't have expected that, but it's a little bit like some of the stuff when I was studying econ, where you have an idea about how the world works, and then you study something, or in your case, there's sort of an external shock, and then you suddenly find out how it actually works, and it's completely different from what was what the first impression was. So I'm glad that meant good things. Although I suppose most of them must be coming from the Philippines. At least that seems to be the case of Canada. The other participating paladins have reached the planets of their protection, Examine Eluna. Are you ready for the calling of bravery to commence? They are sending you their regards in a timed transmission. Dear Eki Eluna Leoness and Eki Denard, it is an uplifting feeling to know that the two of you are venturing out to fulfill your chivalrous duties and serve the populace and its needs with the purest of hearts. May your swords strike ever truthfully and continue to write the legend of the Oathbound Paladins. Thank you, Eki Brissot. It is indeed an honor for the two of you to witness my greatest achievement yet to come. I will make sure to let my heralds pass on the tales of my triumphs to you, so that you may enjoy the benefit of being able to learn from the best. Eki Brissot, your noble teachings are a true inspiration for even the most accomplished paladins. I hope to see you take your well-deserved place in the circle of heroes eventually. Eki Denard, your courage and victories on the field are legendary and worthy of true admiration. There seems no challenge too great for you to master. As for myself, I give this promise to the people of the Ekisad of Verdis. My heart shall not find rest while even a single soul under my vowed protection is still living in fear or bale. May all our actions continue to spread the light in this dark universe. Mostly Europeans. Okay, I did not... That's neat. All right. So I hope I'm still going to have enough I should have enough movement to be able to handle this, but let's just in case, we'll start off with the appropriate scumbag approach. So again, I could do an auto combat. Well, actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'll see what the result is just so I can compare. All right, so fair amount of damage this time around, but we'll do a retry. Now, there's a couple of nasty melee units in here, which I think I'm gonna have some troubles with. This looks new. Oh no, that's assembly. All right, so we'll see what we're up against here. So we've got the plasmoid. These are the ones that I'm kind of the most concerned about. So please don't try to cook on them. Sure, Specialist Varen calls it her walking barbecue grill, but just bumping them causes a fiery blowback of third-degree burns. They're like walking napalm grenades. Plasmoids become available when research scientists from the Promethean Project developed what they called a Phoenix Op station. There's a whole protocol for containing the caustic inferno of chemicals that fuel them. Ever since then, these fiery little bots are part of our acquisition cycle. We can order a little extra firepower if you catch my meaning. Tex Melonballer Smith, RV6750M, Special Ops and Support. So they've got Lash Out. Use plasma to lash out at a target. High impact, it staggers, it bypasses all shields, it's incendiary, so it applies burning. They're thermal resistant, psionic resistant, weak to arc, which is good news there. But the thing that's really worrying about these guys is backlash. When damaged, this unit pulses fire around itself, dealing 6 damage to all adjacent enemy units. So what you want to do with these guys is either engage them at range, or you want to make sure that if you do a melee attack, you hit it as hard as you possibly can so that backlash doesn't take you out. They're particularly thorny for me for the simple fact that my one ranged unit is the Burning Greatbow, and the Burning Greatbow is entirely fire-based. So, and I've got 2 plasmoids that I need to deal with basically at melee range. So this is definitely going to be a struggle. I can now see why the AI, took so much damage doing this engagement. My best option here would probably be to take the Scryer. Now, it's also important for me to remember that these are arc, these are entropy, and there's an important distinction between the two. So anyways, we got 2 plasmoids to deal with. We've got the Frenzied. We are Frenzied, branded as worker tools. Our claws thirst for reaping. We work our mindless mother. We are not them. We work until our vanished queen returns. She calls from the empty. They think she died. The earth's fertile wealth will feed our broken. We are the strongest in the true swarm. We follow our forgotten purpose. We fight those who exiled our queen. Too long we worked for them. Now we fight. They desire sweet nectar. We'll give them bile. We are the Frenzied. Message repeats. Kirko Interrogator Translation Unit. Translation errors. RV1457D. The carapace broken. Surrendering Claws. 3. It's a repeating attack. It staggers. It bypasses shields because it's melee. Battle Vomit. So this is the one that you want to worry about for clustering. It applies choking. And it's biological attack. Also, if they stand beside each other, they gain shields for Swarm Shield. And then we've got a Scavenger. So these guys are kind of fun. I haven't actually done them in the main campaign yet, but my mother used to tell fairy tales of ghouls looting graveyard crypts, hungry to feast upon the dead. Their stories haunted me when I saw the assembly scavengers wandering lost battlefields, harvesting flesh from the fallen. As basic infantry of the assembly, one of their arms is replaced with a short-range shotgun. Yet scavengers don't eat flesh. They use their long vivisecting claws to amputate viable body parts for transplantation. My left leg was removed at the knee in one such unfortunate encounter. Somewhere out there, a part of me fights for my enemy. Mesoritali, RV9912M, Synthetic Avalanche. So Claw Slash. Assimilate heals for 4 when attacking non-mineral, non-ethereal units. And, of course, the stagger and the shield. And then Shotgun, kinetic damage, high impact, so it's also a stagger-based one. So basically, all of these units are going to have... except for the Frenzied, all of these have a reason to want to engage me in melee. So I kind of need to make sure that I'm bringing the appropriate sort of tools for the job. It's also worth noting that in the case of the assembly, they're actually protected against arc. So it's not necessarily an optimal solution to just take my my paladins and start beating them with my lances. Finally, we've got the Assembly Inspector. Ever conversed with an Inspector? I have. I was fleeing. The Assembly sent out dozens of the floating three-headed scouts to search for escapees. It was impossible to hide from the three heads. While its arc rod charged, I groveled and begged for mercy. I'm a small, shameless, and entirely non-threatening. Perhaps that's why it complained to me. It hated its job. The second head told the first to shut up. An argument ensued, the three heads blaming one another for their predicament. Apparently being fitted as an inspector is some kind of punishment. That's how I slipped away. Maregnib, RV2224X, runaway. So they've only got the arc rod. It is a repeating attack, though. But maintenance repair is the thing I want to be worried about here. The Inspector is able to make small maintenance repairs on friendly cyborg and mechanical units, healing them for 20. This kind of makes these guys a bit of a high priority as far as damage is concerned, because every unit except for the Kirko can kind of get healed by them here. So I have a couple of ideas about how I want to approach this. The flying units are sort of my best bet for most of the units I'm up against. The plasmoids really can't do a whole lot against flying units. The assembly unit can. The Kirko have their bile, but by and large, I have a bit of an edge when it comes to engaging these guys. So what I'm going to do for starters, I'm not going to worry about protecting my units. I'm just going to try and get a little chip damage on whatever whatever units I can. I'm also going to spread out slightly. Okay, so I get 2 hits with this. I was surprised that hit, to be completely honest. And again, this is kind of my rare chance to be able to sort of attack these guys without too much consequence. So any chip damage I can do to help take out these guys, the better. Next thing I'm going to do is try and get as close as I can into the fight without completely giving away the store. Now this is the bigger dilemma here. Again, I don't want to... I have to acknowledge the fact that there's the arc rod with the repeating arc attack, so they are going to be able to do some damage to my own foe. Well, yeah, see, that's just it. I've kind of already signed myself up for the damage, so... let's stay out of range of the attacks. Other than that, I think I'm good. This is a little bit of a cowardly move, all told. I feel like I should be closing the gap a little bit more effectively with these guys, but I kind of gotta deal with the hand I've been dealt. Now, let's see if there's anything I can do with my ranged unit. Not really. So I'll move them up. I won't give him an excuse to do the choking. I think we can still launch whatever we need. I think that's the best we can hope for right now. So let's see what the retaliation looks like. All right, that's not a huge surprise there. Now this opens some possibilities for me. Sure, we've got the battle vomit on us. But this side has now just been given permission to sort of run in and take everyone out. All right. So of course that they're not going to worry at all about. That's a fire attack. So let's start by taking advantage of the fact that I can make life difficult for these guys. So I can spread out the damage across the 3, or I could inflict the fumbles. It's particularly tricky too, because the person I want to take out the most is this assembly unit, and it's probably going to be the one I can be the least effective with. So maybe the answer here really is the Lash of Adversity. So these guys are secure against arc. Brutal. Alright, and we can take these guys out in one go, so... Oh, not quite. That's going to mean more backlash. Alright, well that's life. That's a 15% chance. Oh, but I don't have any other option because I was blocked here. Alright.
Enemy down.
That was lucky. But this guy's definitely got a lot more damage than I would like them to have. So let's think about how I handle... I think I'm just going to accept the damage that I take, and what I want to focus on instead is I want to see how I can minimize the damage that this unit's going to be taking. So this will stagger. Yeah, so I'll get in as close as I can. So that's not enough to take this guy out. In this case, I think this is the right call. So the reason I did that is now their Rending Claws only does 2 attacks. So it'll be close. I think if they focus their entire attack on this one unit, then I'm in some serious trouble. But otherwise, I should be okay. And they didn't take the bait. Oh yes, that's right. I also inflicted all those fumbles. Bad Kirko! Okay. So, I feel kind of crummy that I need to do this. I'm going to put the precognition on. So I gotta get some space for my guys. So I'm gonna run in with the Volt Pike. And this is basically so that I can do the Embolden. Although while I'm at it... I kind of want to maximize the return on these moves. I think that's still in range. I hope it is. Okay, so nobody else is going to be able to get the results of the Embolden. So somebody's going to have to do at least 1 damage to this Frenzied here. So got a flank. Tropic shock. All right.
As the oracle foretold.
So, similar story here, right? The best case scenario would be for me to hit an Embolden here and sort of let everybody heal up. This does, of course, leave the Inspector in a fairly decent case to do some fairly substantial damage. So, the question really becomes, what's the most effective way? Okay, actually, no, I already know the most effective ways. So, we'll hit him with the Volt Pike first.
Enemy destroyed.
Now, it doesn't really matter where I do this because it's still going to be a single move. So that's half their health. That's not even remotely close. So, but of course, if I'm going to get the buff from heroism, well, hang on. Yeah, that's not going to do the damage that I need. So we'll embolden everyone. We'll do the damage that we can. And then next turn we clean everything up. And again, it'd be nice if I didn't take that damage, but it's what we got, right? Not enough to seal the deal, huh? So, I mean, we took some damage, but I feel like that was a lot better than what the AI pulled off, so... Omniserve says here, 2 words change turn-based gaming for you forever. Risk management. Are you talking specifically about approaches, or are you thinking, is this sort of a field of study that you went through that brought you to it? As you'll notice here, actually, so I am definitely inclined in whole. Okay, yeah, I am definitely I'm inclined to agree with you. I sometimes take the view that the best form of damage mitigation is to eliminate your opponent. But I'm also feeling like the Oathbound have done a really good job of sort of playing to that tendency in me. All right, that's going to be nice for helping grow the colony. I can sense that you have managed to return to your last vision. What do you see? It felt like a memory from when I was still a little girl. I was playing in the fields together with some children from the neighborhood. I was joyful until my parents called me in for dinner, and I noticed that I had lost my favorite toy. My parents even went with me to the fields to look, but it was gone. The strangest thing is that I do not recognize any of the places or people that I saw, not even my supposed parents. Is it possible that I inherited someone else's memories? Passing on something as complex and yet vague as a memory would require carefully honed psionic skills. More often, the dreams and visions of a psionic user are projections of that person's own hopes and fears. You say you lost something in that vision. What was it? A toy car, a doll, or a plush frog? Oh, man. See, I know that the choices matter in this game, so what is the deep meaning of a toy car, a doll, or a plush frog? I like the idea of the frog, to be honest, but... A doll is a little more conventional, I suppose. I'm just waiting to find out that this character found a sword lying in a field and took it as a sign that they needed to eject England from their homeland. Yeah, let's go for the frog. Partly also because of that wonderful old game, Chrono Trigger, that had a frog knight who was a very admirable character. Interesting. Very interesting. Then why don't you search for it on your current planet? Here, on the Equisat of Verdis, but my dream could have played out on any planet at any time during the past few hundred years. It doesn't matter. As long as you connect with your vision, it will lead you to where you need to be.
Objective completed.
Your Celestian mentor, Reverend Nakri, has encouraged you to follow on your strange visions and search for the lost toy from your dream. Oh, let's take a look at the titles for the other places then. So where would the car have gone? Not so obvious where any of these others would wind up. I'm just going to pause for a little refreshment. So I do want to focus on the main goal of the settlements. I guess the good news about this is that I can double back from Damister and then head back to Blacknewt Swamp. Alternatively, I can take a peek at all the goodies that we can get. It's a tough call. I am going to use this as a scout. And that paid off because there's some stuff that I can pick up on my own. The streets of the settlement are deserted and some of the houses overgrown and uninhabitable. The Oathbone only arrived here 2 years ago, yet it looks as if the local decay has been going on for decades. A Paladin Protector, thank the wisdom of the Seers and Oracle. Your observations are right on point, O bringer of safety and hope. The rot that has infested this village is not natural in its quickness or shape. It started with animating my pottery, turning them into wandering nightmares of clay, but soon more dangerous objects and machinery were stalking the streets. By that time, the steward of our village had begun to investigate the problem. She said that there was no vile magic involved, but that a rapidly growing mushroom had taken hold of our farming equipment. When she failed to return from her last expedition, we were left defenseless against these fungal invaders. You should be defenseless no longer, brave citizen. Let it be known that the new Aki of this planet has arrived, and that she will not rest until your village is safe once more. The people of Damister are threatened by a very lively plague of living fungi taking over farming equipment as weapons. The local paladin went out to face the pests but never returned. You need to eradicate the plague. The remains of this transport contained a salvageable energy pod worth 28 energy. Unfortunately, its destroyed systems reveal no data on the convoy's origin, destination, or what led to its destruction. Ah, cool. So we get the territory right away. That's good. That's also going to change some of my plans as far as... We're going to set up some defenses there right away. That's going to change some of my plans as far as expansion is concerned. So all of a sudden I don't need Townsend's Folly to reach all the way into these territories. There's still an argument for taking this area, seeing as we did take over the overgrown biodome. It does give us some food right away, as well as some science. But all of a sudden, this becomes more attractive. Maybe this water-based tile on its own, it's maybe not so exciting, but given the fact that there's the derelict hydro plant, and of course it'll be a little bit easier for us to cross over into Norsdal. Then, of course, there's the other argument of moving out to these two areas so that we can claim the Forbidden Harvest, although obviously Organic Food Compound 5 is a pretty attractive target as well. Anyways, I think I will annex the Utopian Rainbow Fields, and there's not a whole lot of movement I can do right now, so these guys will stay put. Okay, so what are we up against for this equipment? Mycelium fertilizer. My girlfriend calls it karma. She got me to eat all that vegan stuff. Unfortunately, it's a dog-eat-dog world, or in this case, people eat mushroom. Then the mushrooms eat people world. Not sure why or how, but mushrooms got into the fertilizer dispenser bots. Now they're smart. They have control of the bots roaming the land, seeking to turn us all into fertilizer so that they can grow and spread their mushrooms like wildfire. They eat us, and when we can take one down, we eat them. I never should have given up on bacon. Diego's Tortuga, RV554361E, live your best life. So, enveloping growth, bio attack, high impact, melee, entangle. Fortunately, it's short range. Muck spray, expel toxic fertilizer across the battlefield in a 1 hex radius. Also staggers, slows, fungal infestation. Doesn't say what fungal infestation does. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's Mycelian or Mycelian. Probably Mycelian. But friendly Mycelian units on the battlefield with 2 shields, 20 damage against units affected by fungal infestation for 2 turns. So this is not so bad here because we tend to bypass shields through most of our melee attacks. And of course, the thermal weakness will help us quite a bit. The planters, upon arrival on Parma Regella 4, our landing crew located a still functioning biofarm from the Star Union Agricultural Ministry. The planter bots combed fields flowing with rich crops of edible herbs and fungus. We entered the personnel center to begin negotiations with the farmers, only to discover a horrible sight. The crew of the station was dead, covered in fungal growths. That's when we realized the mushroom-encrusted planter bots were not being directed, but had become sentient and followed us and sought to use us as fertilizer. Maregnib RV-:09432567T, when your food wants to kill you. Can you pet the mycelian fertilizer? How you doing, Night Valiant? Let me just take a quick second here, guys, and say some of you have been long-term viewers of the stream, but you haven't had a chance to hear me shout out Night Valiant. So Night Valiant is a South American streamer. I think you said you're from Brazil. One thing that's wonderful about Night Valiant stream is that they tend to start roughly around the time that I'm ending. I know there's a few of you who like to kind of come in at the end of the stream and are like, oh, good, I managed to catch the stream like 10 minutes before I sign off. And so in that sense, Night Valiant's a wonderful recommendation because for those of you who keep getting disappointed by my hours, he's going to be there to help pick you up. You're watching charity streams. Good for you. Very puzzle focused. I believe I originally saw Night Valiant stream through Lucifer Within Us, that wonderful game by Kit Fox, which I think was rather unfairly treated in its reviews. But I had a great time with it. But I've since watched him play Outer Wilds. He's moved on to the Hitman series, it looks like. At least that's what he's been playing for the last few times I watched. If you're disappointed with his hours, come to be disappointed by mine. Equal opportunity to disappointment here on the System Jock channel. But yeah, Night Valiant has been a real delight to watch for the past little while. I've been getting a bit better at my bedtime, so I haven't been able to watch as long as I would normally like. But definitely a streamer that I've been really happy to catch lately, and I do recommend. Okay, so we've got the Volatile Crop Scatter, repeating fire volley of volatile fungal crops, just a standard attack. Hardening Sapling Cannon, launch an explosive modified sapling across the battlefield, detonating in a 1-hex radius. So lots of AoE to worry about. Also staggers, demolishes cover, fungal infestation again. And everything's thermal weak. Finally, we're very familiar with the Hopper Hounds. Hopperhound Blademaw, the bright red carapace clicked. It inched backwards against the cliff wall. It was the largest Hopper Hound we'd seen in generations. Long bloody slashes adorned the few remaining hunting dogs that it brayed at. The townsfolk closed in, raising their rifles for the kill. The first shot cracked the air, but the huge red hopper was already gone. It leapt over the dogs and encroaching villagers, striking a soldier. The man fell flat, dropping his weapon as the creature's razor-sharp claws stabbed at him. Brian Froden, RV-3480E, hunting bugs on the frontier. These guys, I do need to protect my aerial units against them because they're airly, but basically they close the distance really quickly. They're very good at sort of slashing and hurting my guys, but again, more of a standard unit. So I think basically the bowmen in my army is really gonna show their worth on the upcoming fights. Okay, so I know the tech tree took a bit of a shift. We found that last stream, but the thing is that I've never had to do the Oathbound before, so there's nothing to get unfamiliar with, and I don't think Celestian was changed too much, which is good news for me. So Luminance would be good for me to... Luminance would be a good one for me to pursue at some point because of the Burning Greatbow. However, the Warden ranks are a little earlier. Yeah, this is always a tough one for me to figure out first. Also, I want to keep in mind that I want to focus on things like tactical operations. So, you know, healing wouldn't be bad. Grants 1 shield with an adjacent unit with an oath mod. Okay, so that would be really good for my combinations of paladins and their aspirants. Momentary insight. Target friendly unit gains providence for 1 turn, making all of its attacks critically hit. Entropic foundations. So I'm not quite ready to drop these mods on everyone yet. I don't know how much entropy I'm going to be using. So let's say my choices are going to be between Light's Embrace and Induction Rites. So if I go Induction Rites, that potentially opens Colonial Guard. Paladin Protector will patrol a target-friendly colony. When friendly armies fight in target-friendly colony, a Paladin Protector will aid them in combat. The Protector disappears at the end of combat. So 30 energy and 4 strategic resources to get a free unit. Elevate to Warden. Target-friendly army involves a prime-rank Paladin Aspirant into a Paladin Warden. It permanently gains +1 status effect resistance. So I'm kind of curious here. No, it's a strategic operation. It's not a doctrine. So, yeah. This seems like a really good way to grow my armies very quickly. Elevate to Protector. Target family army evolves a prime-rank Paladin Aspirant into a Paladin Protector. It permanently gains +1 status effect resistance. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Yeah, Colonial Guard seems really strong. I'm not too crazy about the Warden ranks on their own, simply because I know we want to pursue Luminance. Here's an interesting question. How many of my units are enlightened on their own? Most of them are not. That actually complicates things even more. So there's an argument here for Light's Embrace, because that'll allow me to apply a mod that makes everyone enlightened right away. And in fact, Shield of Remorse is particularly attractive here because it makes my units even more scary to attack. So in terms of pursuing mods... Yeah, you know what? Light's Embrace is the right way to go here. It's a shame, because like Colonial Guard really is strong. And I do want to pursue Induction Rites, Warden Rites, Watcher Ranks, so on and so forth. But I think this is going to put me on a branch that will get me a unit that I want fairly quickly. It's also going to bring me on the path to a mod that I've used in every single army I've ever had for Celestians. So it's hard for me to really say that I'm not going to make the most out of that particular branch. All right, social research. This has changed quite a bit, and I'm particularly interested in this idea of residential development because it looks like you're now able to build even larger bases than before. You'll also notice, so it seems that with every patch, espionage gets reworked. And I think it makes sense. Like, I seem to remember that the espionage used to be like within 2 of operations. That was wonderful, but kind of ridiculous. Because like, why wouldn't you just constantly be energy siphoning and stealing research? But of course, now the question is like, what do I want to get out of this? So one argument would be I want a doctrine as early as possible. Area surveillance is actually the hardest one for me to justify right now because that would be more of a gateway towards something else that I want. And I kind of already know what I want to try and accomplish. Frontier facilities is always good because of the recreational dome, being able to boost the happiness in the colony. And then aquatic deployment is very useful in its own right because of the sort of the access to floating units that you get. But let's just take a look. I've kind of already crossed whatever rivers I'm going to. I will have another point where I cross a river, but we're not at that yet. So I think my options here are kind of obvious. If I'm going to go for economy, it'll be frontier facilities. And we've got Duty of Care, additional 20 influence from quests, plus an additional 20% for each level above neutral. Pre-battle predictions, all units start with one stack of precognition. That's pretty fantastic. The throne. Unlock the throne colony structure. The throne enables colony bonuses for colony lords. When a hero with a colony lord bonus skill is linked to this colony, then the colony will still receive 50% of the hero in domain bonus, even when the hero is outside the colony's domain. That is a particularly strong improvement because I have a feeling I'm going to be using my hero. I'm going to be moving my hero all over the place. So normally I'd start with frontier facilities. I'm going to do people's contracts. And this is because I think I'm good enough in terms of my happiness, and I'm going to be able to build some of these other buildings while I wait. So this will be good. Well, I mean, this is actually not a bad time to catch me, Night Valiant, because this is the very first time I'm playing the Star Kings DLC, and so all of the reasoning I'm voicing out here is basically me encountering this stuff for the first time and saying, okay, here's how I'm going to approach it. This may not be the right way. But this is how I'm going to work on it to see whether or not my assumptions were correct. So I'm actually only 2 turns in. Like I said, I unpack quite a bit, but I don't think that's necessarily I don't necessarily think that's a bad way to approach a game like this. Rackle the Seer, Examine Luna. There is another incoming transmission from Aki Denard. He insisted on putting it through to you. To the spectators of my triumph, by the time this message reaches you, I shall have already expunged 4 hopperhound dens, 2 quartzite nests, and slain the great worm of Legidor Island. You may all clap your hands and stand in awe of my admirable deeds. It is good to hear that you are faring well on your adventures, Aki Denard. I myself need to shield my loyal citizens from an equally dangerous foe. The assembly dropped from the sky with their barges of half-dead organ harvesters. They cannot be reasoned with. That is grim news, Aki Berceau. May your lance prevail and push those terrifying cyborgs back into the wastelands from whence they came. Alright, so I'm going to make a small diversion to pick up the goodies. Remnants of this transport contain salvageable energy pod worth 27 energy. Unfortunately, its destroyed systems reveal no data about the convoy's origin, destination, or what led to its destruction. So I would have loved to talk with the growth for a mission, but I do want to sort of move in and achieve the goals as quickly as possible. So Damister is our new colony. We just made that. I think I'm still going to do Central Biofarm. Alright, Townsend Folly has an unexploited sector. I think we said we were already going to do agriculture here. This is because we have the overgrown biodome. We cleared out the riffraff, so an additional 10 food for the colony that it's linked to grants an additional 5 food when in an agriculture exploitation. So it kind of lends itself towards the agriculture improvement. And the thing here is I'm not actually quite ready to be building any more special units, so I'll move that one up on the queue. If I want, I could spend 300 energy, but I'd much rather spend those points on on units. Now there's also, actually, if memory serves, we don't have mods yet, so... yeah, no equipment available. So now would have been a good time for me to equip mods to these units. Unfortunately, I don't have any, so next turn I'm just going to move in against the mushroom vehicles, and we'll do our best with what we've been given. I'm also keeping these guys in the base just so that we can sort of get the defensive bonuses. I think with, where are we at? 439 versus 640. So yeah, getting the base bonuses will help me a little bit.
Sector annexed.
All right, let's see where this goes. All right, so I think they're a little bit outside of my range. The growth. The ones that uproot our saplings are returning in greater numbers. Whither, foul herbivores? Too long have you spread your roots near our gardens. Now you will taste the thorns of a rose. Have we met before? You must mistake us. We don't come with ill intentions. This all sounds like a big misunderstanding. Our only mistake was not to grow wary of you devourers before. It seems that you were fostering our sprouts in your gardens of plenty, but then the harrowing harvest came, and our children were ended in slaughter, season after season. Now it is time for your own leaves to wilt. Sentient plants on a planet built for farming. This will be problematic. I'm not sure yet how to convince them of our good intentions, but there has to be a way. Until we find out more, we'll have to defend ourselves against these vengeful vines. Ooh. That complicates things quite a bit. So now Tenson Folly is a aptly named. There are a few growth bases that are going to make life hard. All right, well, let's focus on the task at hand. So again, I always get the option of auto combat. I am going to do the auto combat just to see how the AI handles it. Yeah, so we would have lost a unit if we did that. So one key to remember here is the advantages that come from fire damage. Unfortunately, none of my folks are ready there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move up for some Overwatch. Ooh, new music. So if I can get away with a cheeky lash of adversity, I'll feel good. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to have... Well, it might. It's a risk, but... Nice. Okay, so that... it'd be great if I could have got that guy, but being able to hit the 3, I can work with that. Wait, that was the right one, right? Yeah, it's the one that causes the misses. So now I can sort of afford to sort of rush these guys in. Okay. So I am opening myself up for some of these AoE attacks. And it's from the one unit that doesn't have... it's from the one unit that doesn't have, like, penalties. You know what? I think still getting the Paladin Protectors in as close. So the whole point of putting this adversity on is to... to try and get my guys to clear as much territory as possible. I kind of want to try and spread people out. So the thing I'm really worried about here would be the muck spray. So like that's a good spot for it. They're going to kind of be able to do it on a lot of folks, I think. But again, we know there's a bunch of fumbles, and they don't have... Unlike the previous round, these guys don't have any ability to eliminate the debuffs. So the hope is that we get enough units sort of in close range that we can start inflicting the overwatches on all the remaining units. So this is kind of the most fragile of the rounds. Let's see how it goes. Okay. So now we get to find out what fungal infestation does, I suppose. Target is permeated with fungal infestation. On death, the unit explodes in a cloud of toxic spores, damaging all units within 1 hex for 14 turns. And apparently they're immobilized, so that's a pretty devastating... That's actually a pretty devastating attack. Okay. I'm just trying to think about... So, obviously, there's one unit that I want at least one unit to take this thing out. So this guy is hit by the fungal infestation, so this makes sense to hit him with the Volt Pike.
Enemy killed.
This guy can move in, so it makes sense to get him to tie up this unit right away. Now, regrettably, this unit really isn't able to quite close the distance. So I could try and use Embolden to give people some buffs, but I think that's premature. So what I'll do instead is I'll move her up as far as I can, and we'll get at least whatever chip damage we can with the pistol. So now the question becomes, okay, so who do I want to start targeting with these remaining attacks? In my view, attacking the units that are not in... basically, the units that are not being locked down by a melee unit are probably the top priority. The one worry that I have about this approach, though, would be it kind of leaves this guy off the hook. So I think what the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move my Lightbringer up. So again, I only get one move here. There might have been an argument for the Burning Banner. Yeah. So I'll get in a little bit closer. Let's see if we can take out the unit with Entropic Shock.
Enemy down.
So to my view, this unlocks the rest of my units to focus on this guy in the back here. Because essentially any action that this takes is going to get best reply from my Paladin Aspirants. And again, it may wind up being chip damage. That's an unfortunate reality. But in this case, I'm just able to do what I can. And I guess that's it. So let's see what horrible things the AI has planned for me. Okay, I mean, that's not a massive surprise. Oh! Wow! I did not realize that was a thing. Sorry to reload that. I got completely caught by surprise on that. It's like the one unit is going to take me multiple rounds to replace, so... Okay, so let me think a little bit about... By the way, so one of my justifications for doing that is it didn't actually tell me what parasitic infection did. So clearly I need to spread out a lot more than I actually did. I probably might have been able to accept that if I... if I'd known sort of what I was up against parasitic infection wise, but that's, I think, a little too much to lose such a high value unit to something I could have built a reply for. So again, we're still going to take the same approach. I want to close the gap as much as possible with my people. In this case here, I also think it's a little foolish of me to just sit in cover like this, because we already know that there's going to be we already know that there's going to be sort of protection. So what the rest of this turn is going to be about is making sure that I stagger everyone sort of at an appropriate distance. I am going to build something around the Lightbringer. This is just so I can get the Overwatch in. That's kind of a bad place for him, though, because of that cliff. So now, again, I want to try and get as close as I can to the enemy without necessarily... I've already kind of boxed myself in. I need to make sure I have a greater than one sort of distance from all my other units. So let's see how far we can get the commander. So, like, this seems like a... Oh, crap! I thought I was selecting the commander. Sorry, guys. I know this is annoying. I'd give anything for an undo button in this game. All right, there should be absolutely no surprises as to how this turn is gonna work out. Now, I don't think I have the same kind of fear for area of effect attacks, but just to avoid too many reloads. Okay. So I'm going to slightly adjust how I handle the Lightbringer here. It's a little more sight. I don't think that's actually going to be effective for anything, but... Okay. So again, the real key here, if I'm going to stagger everybody out, this is where I need these aspirants to be. It seems a little ridiculous, but it's going to count very quickly. This one, I think I just want to get up in their face. So my suspicion here, the way that the infection works, I think they're going to be able to destabilize 3 units anyway. And again, this is one of the reasons why I want to move people as close as possible without necessarily kind of giving away the store as far as AoE attacks are concerned. It's like, I'd love to put someone here, but I know that that's going to get hit by the AoE. If I put someone here, same story with the bowman, so... Alright, so that should be a little bit more resistant to fungal infections. Okay, that's kind of intriguing. That actually really frustrates the effort to try and inconvenience these units. So again, I want to see how close I can get before. So these guys are locked in place. Not much I can do about that. Okay, so I suppose my first order of business is to actually see how effective I can be at taking out these hopper hounds. So obviously I would have loved to use the bow, but I'm hit with the fungal infection, so in this case we'll do the banner to inflict what damage we can. And again, if I can take out the hopper hound early, then that gives my paladin access to just charge in and ruin their day. Ugly. So I'm putting some somewhat valuable units in a certain degree of risk.
Enemy destroyed.
That's what I needed, though. Okay, this will be great, actually. So, again, the key here is I want to tie people up with overwatches. So this unit's going to be able to Volt Saber. Yeah. And then we get to charge in. And again, it's more the fact that we get to retaliate every time they do a given attack. And then I suppose my question here is, if I get a lucky... I think everybody else has made their moves. Well, this guy can't do anything, so... So the likelihood that this guy gets taken out by the retaliation is fairly high. So let's go for the chip damage on the Void Blast here. And let's hope we don't lose a unit like we did last time. So unfortunately, that didn't seal the deal. That would have been...
Unit has fallen.
Christ! Again, if I'd known that these Overwatches weren't going to be effective, I should just be saving. You see Starship Troopers, you know how this ends. Yeah, I'm still getting... I gotta get used to some of this stuff. So, like, I genuinely thought that the retaliation on that unit's attack would be enough to take it out. Obviously, getting hit with 3... Like, any unit that gets hit 3 times in the back with, you know, with an attack is not going to survive that. So sorry. I'm not going to make this like the Amazon where I refuse to lose a unit at any time. Well, the first Amazon unit thing I did. But I definitely need to get a... I need to get a feel for what's going on here, because I've clearly been making some blunders. Trying to decide if this or this is a better spot to put them. And then I've slightly complicated things by... So notice that I haven't left myself a lot of options for getting in close here. It's because there's a one hex gap kind of just between everything. So not an optimal placement, but I think we're still going to be able to do what I want. And then now the rest of this is just a question of how much I want to dedicate to taking out certain types of units. I think what I'm going to do this time around is focus on the right-hand side unit over here. It's not because it's the one that took out my paladin, so much as the fact that I have more units on this side of the map able to sort of be dedicated towards here. The more that I free up my units to be able to take out the big one in the back, it works better for me. All right, so we kind of knew how this one was going to work out, fortunately. Real question for me is how much do I want to dedicate to trying to take out these hopper hounds? Gross. I mean, this'll finish it, but I'm still trying to avoid that clustering if I can.
Enemy
Cool.
annihilated.
So of course here, in addition to the flank, this is about ensuring that any retaliation properly takes this thing out. So not a lot we can do about this guy. Let's see if I lose a unit like an idiot this time. Interesting. They might take him out. Damn it.
Unit destroyed.
That's so frustrating that I keep losing a unit each time.
Enemy annihilated.
I am going to take that one, though, because that is a slightly more replaceable unit. It's just a shame to have
As the
to
oracle foretold.
lose a unit like that. Okay. So I think in this case, Curse of Fatalism is not a bad one to throw on him, seeing as I'm going to be putting the rest of my army just beating the crap out of him as much as possible. Ah, that's unfortunate. So I was hoping to kind of take advantage of moving this unit one over. Now I really need to deliver.
Our forces are victorious.
So obviously it would have been nice not to lose a paladin aspirant like that. In fact, I think I basically did just as well as the AI in that case. But the kind of the learning benefits, they've sort of, I've gotten them. That particular loss of that unit was not the result of me not understanding how a mechanic didn't work. Not understanding how the mechanic worked. That was, I made a set of decisions. They focused fired that unit down. That's how strategy games work. Yes, you can keep redoing it over and over again to get a perfect result. But in this case here, sort of the repeats had sort of already, the repetition had already sort of served its educational purpose. So it's one of the distinctions I want to make. I mean, like, on the other hand, I should also be clear. Like, if you only like games when you steamroll them, that's a fine way to play. Like, you can do that. But I tend to find for strategy games, especially, because in some cases you can make some decisions that don't seem to have very large consequences at the start, but sort of later on turn out to have these really profound sort of, implications. It's sometimes really frustrating. Like Stellaris is a great example, or indeed a lot of the Paradox grand strategy games. So one of the only ways that you can, the only way you can get the achievements in those games is by playing on Iron Man mode. And that's fine. That gives you a little bit of a challenge. I think some people feel that gives a certain degree of credibility to the things that they've done. But it's not the way to learn those games, because if you do it that way, you're going to get really, really good at the opening stages. And then later on inside the game, you're going to run into something which could even be impossible for you to beat. The way to deal with it would have been in those earlier stages of the game, which you sort of feel like you've mastered, but it turns out, you'd actually neglected this really important thing. And so not only does that have the potential of creating frustration with you or making you lopsided in your development, it actually has the potential of undoing some of the success that you've had before, because you now have sort of built for this certain approach, and then you have to unpack that and deal with some of the future issues. So basically, like when I was playing Crusader Kings 2 for the first time and trying to learn it, I would sort of take these saves at these really critical junctures, and I would learn a little bit about how the fights would work. And you can sort of see how that worked inside here. So I said the first time I read those, like, I'm not sure what fungal infection does. You saw Starship Troopers in the cinema? I didn't realize they were still showing. I mean, that's no disrespect to the film, but that seems like a really niche one to be putting on the big screen again. Sorry, I just got a message from someone I wanted to deal with. So you kind of got to see a little bit of that get unpacked. So first of all, I said, okay, well, I can afford to, I don't need to worry so much about this area of effect because, it does this fungal infection. It can't be that hard, right? So I'll accept the area of effect attacks given the fact that I know I can cause them to fumble. Well, it turns out that in that particular case, imposing the fumble doesn't deal with the fungal infection, and the fungal infection is able to completely destabilize your units, which when it comes to melee is kind of a big deal. Like, that seems to be designed to take out the Oathbound. So I had to sort of reset for that. What was the next time I had to reset? Well, basically because I didn't really anticipate what the damage a single hit of the lance would do. I thought they were actually quite a bit more powerful than they were, and so as a result there were sort of 2 units worth of attacks that sort of turn around and hit my guy in the back. So sure, I mean, I'd win the combat. I can still try and go and rebuild my armies and whatnot. But in this case here, being able to sort of iterate over a bunch of different scenarios and sort of learn a bit about how these things work, to me at least, was a little bit better than sort of having this greatly diminished army that I'm sort of slouching from fight to fight and maybe not realizing some of the intricacies about what the different unit combinations will do. And ultimately for me, because I don't really find it all that frustrating to sort of reload and try again, it's something that for me gives me a better understanding of the game, and I'm a little more likely to understand how some of the units work together. You're in Wellington. It's a movie buff with Weta. Oh, sorry, I didn't know where Weta was based. So, also less new movies, but no lockdowns, so cinemas are showing fun older movies. You also saw Alien a few months ago. I don't think I got to see Alien on the big screen, but I did get to see Aliens on the big screen, which was really fun. I also got a chance to see Terminator on the big screen, which I don't think Aliens was actually a print. I'm pretty sure that was just a DVD that they put on. Or not a DVD, like a high definition Blu-ray or whatever. I'm pretty sure it wasn't like projected, but Terminator was projected, and that was kind of cool. All right, those mycelians are the strangest enemies I've had to face on the field of battle. Hopefully that's all of them in this vicinity. Now the real feat will be to find where they're spreading from, to root out the source of this plague. Our steward said a very similar thing before she went out on her last expedition. She didn't share any details of her findings, but we do know that she was heading for Shroomwood Forest. Be careful.
Objective completed.
Okay, so that's in line with where I want to be moving. Now, again, we have this worry that we're up against the growth, and it's not so clear that I'm going to be able to move my. So this is the challenge, right? One thing I'd like to do is just move these units out and take out you take down the quests really quickly. The tougher situation that I have is the acknowledgement that there's so many growth colonies in the area that are potential threats. Like Dempster is overrun if one of these things moves out. So first thing I'm going to do is get the aspirants where they need to be. Let's collect whatever resources we can. This will be my scouting unit. You find salvageable Imperial supply reserve containing 20 food. Unfortunately, the container logs are destroyed, and you can't trace where the resources are from. Also, it occurred to me that these guys might get overrun by something, so... So these guys can't move. I can't upgrade my commander, though, so let's figure out where I want to go with this. I do tend to do infantry commander, so, but I don't think paladins count as light. Yeah, they count as heavy units, so heavy ground might be a slightly more attractive option here. We've got intuitive strikes. This unit has precognition, gains 20% damage to all abilities. Revealing soul, has enlightened, has a chance to afflict units with soul burn. Trailblazer, when in a vehicle, unit has fast movement. Ooh. And then Colony Lord. So let's figure out how these work. This hero can become a lord of a colony, granting its bonuses to food production and happiness. Disables the option to gain scientific method and energetic efficiency hero skills. I think I'm going to do Trailblazer first. And then we'll make her a close quarter specialist. It'd be cool to do the Lord stuff, but I'm not 100% sure how that works yet, so... All right, Oathbound heroes and any hero... This, by the way, for those of you who are interested in 4X-style games, whether it's Civilization... I mean, Civilization is basically close to a perfect game. Olaf actually got to see me with... this is one of these cases where I behaved myself, but in one sense it's really cool that Paradox games have become much more mainstream than they were. Like, I kind of feel like I got into Crusader Kings 2 right around the time that it had its big push in terms of people getting into these weird games, and then shortly after that it was really clear that a lot of the investment that the development studio was putting into making the games a little bit easier to get into, like Stellaris is a perfect example of the effort that they put in there. You know, I kind of feel like I just happened to get in at that really sweet little time where it was it was growing but still niche, and now like the investment that they've made in being able to appeal to a wider audience is really starting to kind of pull off. But there's this really weird behavior that I've noticed among strategy fans with some Paradox stuff. And it's this really odd sense where people are for some reason, the idea of playing 4X games is now somehow lesser. That, I just do grand strategy. I've outgrown Civilization. And I think what it does is it kind of communicates how poorly understood the Civilization games are in that sense. There's a lot of really neat knobs to twist in the Paradox Grand Strategy games, but it's also important to remember that so much of the Paradox, like the Grand Strategy games, are the game playing itself. So when you play Crusader Kings and you move an army onto another army, the game is playing itself. You don't have anything to do. All you have to do is move those units on top of each other. In the case of Civilization, you will have interactions that occur like any other, hex-based war game. There's, kind of the equivalent of those tables that you get. You roll a certain number of dice, and it'll tell you kind of what the outcome is. But there's a tremendous amount of depth in the Civilization games, and it's kind of funny that I guess because there's this feeling that there are so many systems in the background, and I guess it's really obvious that for the Grand Strategy games that there's this simulation running in the background. I mean, let's face it, simulations are really cool right now. You've got Dwarf Fortress, you've got RimWorld, you've got Industries of Titan, just to name a handful, Oxygen not included. Like there's no shortage of it. But I guess the weird thing for me is I've never really thought of one game being like more hardcore than the other. I've actually always felt that Civilization, like I still run into people who are like, oh, I could never play Civilization. There's just so much to learn. And I'm like, really? Because I feel like they put a lot of effort into making it something that you can grow into, easy to learn, hard to master. And I've always found with these kinds of games that the way to get past that initial shock is to go into things like the Civilopedia, or to go into the the Imperial data or the Imperial archives in this game. I will admit there are some times where I feel like the game doesn't quite give me what I need. So a lot of times when it says it gives you this status effect, the status effect isn't really told to you in some very clear terms. Similarly here, I'm looking for Colony Lordship to see what Colony Lordship will do. But whether you're playing a grand strategy game where the complexity of the simulation in the background is really explicit, or where you're playing a game like, Age of Wonders or Civilization, or even like the Endless games, and there may be leaving a lot more in your hands. The way to kind of help make sense of things is to just narrow down what you're trying to understand, and making sure you put the effort into actually doing the homework. I know some games you can like I played Titanfall 2 this weekend, an amazing first-person shooter. And there was admittedly some stuff that I didn't quite understand, but I learned it through just playing that game. And I feel like strategy games, if you do that, you tend to wind up in these situations where you feel kind of hopeless, and as a result, it makes the game a little less fun. So if you're one of those people who are on the fence about these sorts of things, this is one of the best things I can recommend. The best versions of these games always have some kind of a manual for you to read, and it usually it's worth your time to do that. So, Oathbound heroes and any hero under the control of an Oathbound player has access to special Colony Lord hero skills. Heroes with these skills can be assigned to be the Lord or Lady of a colony. These skills give 2 economic bonuses to the colony Lord or Lady is assigned to, one that's always active, and one that's active only when the hero is present in the colony's domain. 50% of the latter bonus can be retained while the hero is not in the colony's domain by building a throne in that colony. This, by the way, is a really cool take on the feudal system. Sure, it's just a case of get good, readings for noobs. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know exactly the conversation I was talking about. I think the thing that really got to me about that conversation was not that it wasn't the fact that somebody had this sort of elitism over Paradox game. I mean, that's going to happen no matter what, right? but how ostentatious it was. Like, only someone who was buying their first computer would ever consider playing a New Civilization game. And it's like, what planet are you on? Like, I really mean it when I say I think Civilization is about as close as you get to a perfect game. Like, they're so good. I think it's just a question of maybe familiarity breeds contempt. Like, if you're new into Paradox games, and let's face it, a lot of people are, then they're gonna seem like the hot new thing. And why would you ever go back to 4X? It's like, it's because turn-based strategy games are some of the most longest standing game designs that we've had. There's a lot of development that's gone into them. There's a lot of diversity in that genre. And they still keep getting better, right? You go from Civilization to XCOM to... I mean, who could have thought, the difference between XCOM and XCOM 2, and the fact that War of the Chosen still has more stuff to add in it, and then Chimera Squad takes it in totally different directions. That happens all the time in these kinds of games. So, I don't know, though. It's a question of taste. Like, some people maybe just don't like 4X. So, anyways, so you can assign the hero to a colony using the portrait on the left of the colony's name when you have a colony selected. So I guess it probably won't let me. So if I have it selected... Let me just make sure I understood that correctly. You can assign a hero to a colony using the portrait on the left of the colony's name when you have the colony selected. So we take Townsend Folly, colony selected. And I'm assuming that there's no portrait because we don't have that ability yet. That's going to be how I read that. I do need to seriously think about how I am going to get some armies ready. So let's maybe take this stack as the default. So a protector. We don't have Lightbringers yet, but that gives me a start at least. We do not want to waste nutrients on the upkeep of this communication. Speak quickly before the mother node releases brain-infecting spores. We propose a cease of hostilities. In order to form a peace deal, we want the following things from you. 150 energy and 30 influence. We don't have the influence, unfortunately, so we decline. We may be able to fight them to a standstill, but what I kind of want to try and do there is... basically, I want to target the... I'd like to target the... I'm just trying to get an idea of... I want to kind of try and target the hostilities to things that I might want to take for myself. Unidentified Dvar contingent. This is Eluna Leonez of the Oathbound. We have detected your presence on our sensors, with Xenoplague signatures in the same location. Are you under attack and in need of help? Oh, we didn't realize this planet was inhabited, or we would have introduced ourselves earlier. Please don't be alarmed by our forces carrying Xenoplague technology. We are using it strictly for non-military purposes. Excuse me. You're employing Xenoplague technology? That sounds too dangerous to have near our borders. We have enough rampant mutants lurking within our domain already. Exactly. With all this genetically altered fauna and flora, this planet is an ideal testing chamber for my research. You must understand, we Devar have been reliant on environmental suits for so long that we lost the ability to live without them. I'm trying to find a cure for this condition. You mean you would die if you left your suits? How horrible. I need my own battlesuit to survive in combat so I can relate. I would be willing to help you find your cure, but the spread of the Xenoplague needs to stay controlled and under my supervision. You would take charge of this, as you wish, Eluna Leoness. I have created a somewhat more docile pustule, which is capable of collecting DNA samples from different species and merging them into its own genetic profile. The first target species is the growth. Send the pustule you received into combat with the growth and collect the DNA off fallen growth units by using the pustule's extract growth DNA ability. Interesting. So do I have to build the pustule? Oh, there it is. Okay. Paladin Aspirate. Akia Luna Leoness, our scrying drones have scanned the forest. It seems to be entirely swamped with mycelians. What are your orders for the attack? Combine forces for a quick alpha strike, ignite the forest, and fry the mushrooms for dinner. Consult with Rascal before you respond. Our targets are many in numbers and dangerous to face on our own. I am counting on your wisdom, Rascal, to give us an edge in the upcoming fight. Do you have any insight to share with me? You do well in seeking my counsel, Examine Eluna, but the advice I can share is not my own. It stems from the collective efforts of all seers and from the eternal wisdom of Oracle. Let your colonies sweeten their grain and refine it into a nectar-like mush. Use it to fill a natural pond at Forlorn Peaks, and your mycelian problem will be handled. I'm not sure I follow you, Rascal. How would this be of any help? How would any of this help me in killing off the mycelian plague? The connections between the currents of reality are not easy to grasp without the accumulated knowledge of a seer. Trust in my advice, and you will not fail. Alright, Rascal gave you a different suggestion to deal with the mycelian threat. He wants you to fabricate a sweet grain mush and fill it in a pond at Forlorn Peaks. So, let's find where Forlorn Peaks are. Oh my god, okay.
Objective completed.
There it is. Okay. Ah! Most historians agree that the Star Union was guilty of many atrocities in pursuit of greatness, yet nothing is more egregious than what Imperial factions did to the Penguins. They are a species prone to environmental adaptations. The Star Union went too far in creating these genetically modified flightless horrors that lurk amongst the icebergs. If the Star Union ever showed its unbridled hubris, it went too far in playing God and set itself on the path to destruction. It was the creation of these waterfowl abominations. Maragnib RV 4004 Vacation Hotspots. Okay, we did just make a major decision there, so let's take our forking path. I sometimes here's the thing. Yes, in some cases I will reset to to try a different approach. I do also like committing myself to certain paths. I can't. If I want a perfect playthrough, I can redo the campaign. Okay, so what I'm interested in here, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is sort of telling me the range of movement. I'm a little worried about... I'm assuming this is because of the penguins, specifically. So basically, I want to kind of stay to the edge of that forest. Again, Damister is vulnerable for me doing this. So to my view, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to oh right, sorry, we already know where Forlorn Peaks are. It's over here. For me, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to invest too heavily in this research until we're actually in a position to deliver the goods. And it also seems to me that I need to deal with the growth before too long. So
Ponder the candle's flame. As it warms you, look at the bruises you have acquired from a lifetime stumbling in darkness. This is your decision. Would you remain in darkness? Sister Reeb Kacher, Cleansing Invitation.
all right, so this is going to seem like a bit of a weird choice here, because there are, like, the induction rites. There's a ton of stuff that would be really helpful for me right now, but we know the one clear enemy we're up against right now is the growth, no matter what. And we might be able to bribe them, but overall, we're probably going to have to wait a while to get to the end of that. It is also worth saying that in the worst case scenario, if the mushroom people come back for me, we do also get a thermal bonus. And so to a certain extent, I think being able to research luminance and to be able to bring a Lightbringer unit in with a burning great bow, to me, that is a pretty valuable addition to the team. So if we take a look at the growth, thermal weakness, arc resistance, right? We could take a look at the bees, which are the other bonus units that they give out. No major changes. It does look like they have other biological units, but I don't think they have any major, like, unless I'm going up against Quartzite or something like that, I don't think I have to worry about yeah, it's all pretty standard. So it seems to me basically my ace in the hole is to start building these thermal units, and in particular to also move away from arc units if I can, given the fact that there's just so much resistance to it. Even in the case of our mushroom enemies, they're pretty good. I mean, they're grounded, right? Of course they're not going to get killed by electricity. And then, of course, I do also have the more active question of how much, if you are at war with a faction, just how often are they going to spawn armies to come out and kick your ass? Because that's going to have some implications in terms of my ability to, to sort of move out and do adventures. So, Luminance, in my view, is sort of the approach that we want. It is also worth considering in terms of my arc modules. So there is sort of an argument for me going down those paths if I can get a mod that winds up turning my arc damage into something that's not arc damage. But if you notice, right, all these modifications are really just making, either me more arc resistant or giving me sort of better arc abilities. If I do entropy, yeah, it's not really adjusting any of that. So again, a lot of my physical units are not actually really designed to be able to fight the growth. It's neat that they've actually set it up this way. So maybe what I want to start focusing on instead are some abilities that are going to be able to help counteract the effects of different growth. So it kind of build myself up for sort of a more extended engagement and be able to absorb their attacks. Okay, people's contracts.
To preserve enlightenment, the most informed never forget to share their discoveries with the novice. Record your dreams. Document your breakthroughs. Every soul deserves care, not just in body, but in mind. Lessons may not come easily, but only one with patient compassion can comprehend the most important factors of reality. Only they are prophets. Pasha Lyle, seeress of the people.
Okay, so the throne's going to be an upgrade that I want to pursue pretty quickly. Duty of care. We are not really doing quests, so that's suddenly less attractive. And then pre-battle predictions, all units start the battle with 1 stack of precognition. That'd be a good one, but a little, not quite the time. Okay, karmic amplification. We accept everyone we can possibly sway to follow the Celestian way. By aiding others, we reveal them to them the one and only truth. Cooldown for requesting a new quest from a faction is reduced by 1. Again, useless to me right now. Celestial Judgment. Now, I seem to remember that this was a pretty good one that synergized with some of my other, some of the other paths that I take. So not everyone can be shown the light through talking and scriptures. Some need to be forced to bend the knee to our teachings. Your enlightened units deal 10% added damage to non-enlightened units. And then we gain another doctrine development slot. So this is good. This is something that I want to pursue. But it's going to take me 10 turns to do it, then however many turns it takes to implement it. On the other hand, we have frontier facilities. This is going to become incredibly important if I want to be able to take my units and move them out. So let's ignore the happiness slots and just move straight to the military infrastructure. The ability to be able to walk away from my colonies without fear of them being overrun is the biggest reason why I want to pursue that that branch now. For some reason, I have not done luminance yet. There we go.
Operations available for priming.
All right, so I think precognition was I get to dodge an attack, right? I have the energy for it. Alternatively, colony structures require 20% less to build. We're going to go hard on military.
Empire task completed. Production ready.
Sorry, I'm thinking to myself. I don't actually. When I do this kind of thinking. This is the one that I'm less able to vocalize, just because I'm trying to weigh some pros and cons in my head in terms of how many turns I want to invest in certain activities. So I'm not building a colonizer because there's just too much danger in the area, and I know that I'm going to be able to get additional colonies. Actually, so this is the one drawback, is that I might need... Nope, actually, sorry. It looks like it's the number of colonizers I make that raise the price, not the number of colonies I have. So I know I can get extra colonies by moving up to Truchet and Norzadal. The balance that I'm facing right now is building the Sweet Grain Mush, the Throne, the Specialist Training Center. Right now I don't have any augurs, or the ability to build any augurs. And of course, my new army at some point. So here's where my thinking's going right now. I've got these Paladin Aspirants, right? So these have got the Volt Pike and the Volt Blast, 18 and 15. Actually, let's do the comparison here. If I want, I now have Tenets of Tranquility. I just think I've got enough of these guys right now that it's going to cost me a lot, and I'm not entirely sure putting shields on a unit that's going to be spending so much time in melee is really the thing that I want right now. I mean, the stagger resistance is nice, don't get me wrong there, but... Okay, so 45 health, 2 armor, Volt Pike, Volt Blast, so this is kind of nice, and then shields up will give them shields and 25% harder to hit. Let's compare that to Wrong unit. The Protector. So Volt Saber does 13. So they actually do less damage. Interesting. They can embolden Protector. Huh. Well, that's very interesting. So I thought these guys were like just, you know, run all over your enemy, and that's that. As it turns out, these don't necessarily hit. Oh, hang on. No, I'm not thinking about this right. So the Volt Pike is a single action attack, so it's 18 versus 3 attacks at 13. So the Paladin Protector is actually still the stronger unit. Now these the Paladin Protectors cost twice as much as the Aspirants, and then 100 more industry. So here's why I'm taking the time to think about this. Eventually, we are going to get Colonial Guard. So Paladin Protector will patrol target-friendly colony. When friendly armies fight in the target-friendly colony, Paladin Protector will aid them in combat. So 30 energy, you get a sort of a location-specific Paladin. That's a pretty decent... Like, it's a 30 energy for an insurance policy, basically. Target-friendly army evolves a prime rank Paladin Aspirant into a Paladin Warden. It permanently gains +1 status effect resistance. So that's one of these ranged units here. Now, I don't actually have Wardens yet. They actually seem a little bit less useful to me right now, specifically because of the... everybody I'm up against is good at deflecting arc. But... elevate to Protector. Target army evolves to a prime rank Paladin... a prime rank Paladin Aspirant to a Paladin Protector. It permanently gains +1 status effect resistance. So, for 40 energy and the number of turns, I can basically turn a prime rank of one of these guys into one of these guys. This gives me a really good reason to put my units in a lot of combat. It gives me a reason to... I mean, there's a potential strategy where I just take as many aspirants as I can, throw them into the maw, and, you know, just see how many get max rank. And then basically what I do is, with a discount of being able to build these guys, I'm able to sort of spend a little bit of extra energy, a couple strategic points, and then I can turn them into protectors pretty easily. I think it still makes sense to have a couple kicking around, because let's face it, you're going to have to do a lot of combat to get these guys to the top level. But I also want to be thinking a bit about that. I seem to recall that there were some units, so this guy, for instance, because he had Record Keeper. All units in the stack except Seers gain 25 bonus experience. And I don't believe that comes from... Yeah. I don't believe that comes from the... I don't believe that comes from that hero specifically. So if we took a Watcher... Yeah. So, I mean, now I know exactly what I want my last unit in that stack to be. They'll be coming after the... Oh, Augur? Wait a minute. Oh, of course. Because it's in the Watcher ranks. So I do actually have a reason to go up there. I'm still sticking with Luminance, don't get me wrong, but yeah, so you have a Watcher with a big stack of aspirants, and you basically spend some points to elevate them to protectors and wardens. All right, for all of that babbling, I think I'm ready to turn over. Okay, so we get to annex something again. Gildan Greensward is... Well, see, is it though? Because Sweet Glade gives me some Cosmite. I think the question is how much time am I willing to spend on clearing out the riffraff. I'm going to take Gilded Greensward for Damister, and this is just because what I'm planning on doing is taking out the growth. I might be able to take the Psi Shrine out as well. Psi Shrine will also, because it gives the so psionic resistance I'm not too worried about, but the fact that I'm kind of able to get the fact that I'm able to get sort of those bonuses makes it particularly attractive. And again, it gives me a reason to start moving on Sweet Glade to start to clear out the enemy. But I'm just not in a position right now to be able to capitalize on it. Okay, so Townsend Folly's got, let's see what the Augur gives us. They're also a record keeper. Okay. So Gift of Adamants, causing them to remain at 1 health when they would die for 1 turn. Cool. When the effect expires, the target will heal for 20. Okay, so this is still a pretty good unit. In fact, really, I should be thinking about trying to find an augur for this unit, but I just don't have the space. Mind you, that's not an excuse for the pustule not having it.
Production ready.
Okay, let's This is a little scary. This can basically catch... Oh, no, it can't. Well, that's unlucky. Excuse me, sorry for blasting you with the sneeze. So again, I'm just kind of getting a lay of the land for what our mission's eventually going to be. Okay, this might be the last fight, but let's get our money's worth. So again, I'm always interested in the comparison. If I do the auto combat, we lost the pustule. Yeah, that's not happening. So it's important here that I focus on the growth unit. I believe there's an ability that I need to use specifically to harvest it, so... Let me just see. So the bee should count as a growth unit. Oh. Okay, so what's the story here? Genetic extraction sequence. Collect the DNA from a fallen growth unit and absorb it into the alpha strain. Heals the unit for 15. Cool, okay. That's actually kind of important then. So I don't need to have these guys involved in combat. I just need to make sure that I get them to hoover up whatever's left on the battlefield. Yes, I'm just a lowly bug doctor. This xenoplague discovery is no bug. Until witnessing the alpha strain's parasitic mutation from spore to organized creature, I would have said no other living creature had as much success spreading across the world as insectoids. Now I see that even the pustule exhibits a wicked determination to assimilate all life forms. It's too dangerous. You can't contain its spurts of infectious bile. Quarantine your world. It will spread. What you are unleashing upon the universe could end us all. God have mercy if someone weaponized it. Professor R. Little Bugman Bunsen, RV022S, Xenoplague Discovery Analysis. They also have xenographic muscles and plague pods. These things actually become a really big pain with enough time. So, priority number 1 is my archer, if I can. Looks like they don't have... Looks like I don't quite have the range. Well, actually, you know what? That's not entirely true. But I'll set them up with the Overwatch. It seems to me here, so let's do what we normally do. Let's actually review our enemies. So We've got Vine Slash, which is a melee unit. Staggers, bypasses shields, and has a chance to entangle. Spawn Vine Sprout. So spawn a Vine Sprout that lasts until the end of combat. Puts a unit into defense mode after use. Summon unit will inherit any compatible mods that does not grant an active ability. So the Vine Sprouts can become a little bit of a pain, but they're not necessarily too dangerous on their own, especially given the fact that I'm already a melee-focused army. Thermal Weakness, we already knew that. So it's really just this Vine Slash and the fact that they could potentially entangle me. That's the worry. These guys can inflict a heal, so if I have a way of taking them out early, I want to take it. But of course, the challenge here, and this is why I would not want an army of all Paladin Protectors... Oh wait, the Volt Saber I think can attack air units. Yes, they can. Okay. So these guys can heal. That's an important one for me to keep in mind. I don't think the Sting... Nope, the Sting does have life drain. Okay. So yeah, honestly, at this point, though, I'm going to be a little... So this is basically a melee versus melee thing. I just want to make sure... there's no AoE I need to worry about, so... Then again, there also isn't... there isn't necessarily any... This is more about protecting the pustule. I probably should have moved in front of the archer. Basically, I know they need to come to me, and so as a result, I can sort of afford to set myself up for my my defense. And so basically, anything that isn't in these red areas, I'm in good shape. What's the cooldown on this? 1 turn? And again, I'll make sure that my pustule isn't in any immediate danger, but I do want to make sure that the pustule is kind of ready to get involved in the fight. Definitely not ambush leaping. Okay, so they're coming after the pustule. What? Oh, because I checked the bloody... That sucks. I might have to reload this combat off of that.
Operations ready.
No! Damn it. I know I don't get the Overwatch, but in this case I just kind of want to move him closer into the fight. So again, I have some plans about how to make this cool.
Enemy annihilated.
So I got to find a way to deal with these vines, but the hope is that I'm going to be able to get the... Oh, hang on. So there's no body for the bees? Yeah, so the Overwatch is a problem. but there may be a solution to that. I'm going to take the 2 shots with the entropic shock.
As the oracle foretold.
So now the big question, of course, is am I willing to do a second, sort of a second move like this and take up the healing? I'll answer that in a second, but what I want to do right now is just see how much damage I can do with my fire. So, sort of the argument here is I pick up the DNA. So if I do the leap, can't be attacked. Yeah, so their Overwatch becomes a threat, but... How is it possible that I'm not allowed to... That's weird that I can't eat something on my own tile. So I think this is the best that I can hope for here, which is to just move in, and we hit him with the infectious bite. So of course they have the option of focusing everything in. Oh yeah, I could lose the pustule. Well, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so this will still work out for me, so... the answer here actually is to drop some heroism. So again, there's a very specific design behind how I'm approaching this. If I can, we take out the Vine Bud. Not quite enough to seal the deal. Let's not mess around. We'll just hit him with the pike.
Enemy eliminated.
So part of this is about making sure that I get all the eats that I can. Now we're ready to... So we know that we're not going to be able to take out the last of the units. But that's fine because we now have what we need for kind of the rest of the effort. So we'll send fire. It'd be nice if I could sort of do a heal for everyone, but in this case, let's just shoot what we can. And I think I'm one short. Yeah, unless I can come up with a way to throw the pods midair. But that does give me a chance to heal up this unit. So I'll put down heroism. It's not perfect, but does the trick.
Enemy, our forces are victorious.
So this was just basically a way for me to maximize the amount of stuff that went to the alpha strain for the pustule. It did kind of come at the cost of the health for the paladin aspirant, but we kept the pustule. Very good. The DNA from the growth will allow us to regain our sensitivity so we can perceive the world again in its multifarious beauty. Don't be concerned if you see the sampling unit changing. It's simply utilizing the new genetic material. Seems highly dangerous, Director Inessa. I hope that you are sure enough to see... Sorry. I hope that you are sure enough that this is meant to happen. What will be our next step? The next target species are hopperhounds. Their DNA should grant us the physical strength to stand on our own feet again.
Objective completed.
Collect hopperhound DNA, send the destroyer unit you received into combat with hopperhounds, and collect the DNA of fallen hopperhound units by using the destroyer's extract hopperhound DNA ability. Which I believe... Okay. Well, it gives us a reason to go after this big stack after all. And I am actually in a position to be able to go into this area, but I did just hit the 3-hour mark, and I got a little bit of a later start, so there are some things that I would like to get done today. So I'll do a quick debrief, but I think that is... I think I'm going to say that's it for tonight's stream. But we'll talk about what the next steps are going to be, and then I'll find someone to host tonight. So it's not... It's like the soft, it's the soft wrap up. Actually, you know what? Let's, I can at least, we'll ignore the orders, but let's see about annexing a new sector. So, small argument to take. Oh yeah, now I really got to make the choices here. So I don't think I can annex this unless I actually claim it for myself. I could try and save Vine Grove for the industry, and then move into the. Okay, so I've got 3 more extensions that I can do now. These are roughly equivalent. This definitely gives me Cosmite, which makes it very attractive. So I got 2. I can still take number 3 over here. Oh, these aren't equivalent. One gives me more food, one gives me more energy. I'll take the upheavals for now. So I'd really like to take this, but the challenge is that I'm actually going to have to clear out the abandoned quarry, and there's no evidence that I'm going to be able to pull that in. So I'm going to be able to convert some of these into different types of sectors later. I might also be able to expand even further with the residential district. So I'll probably wind up changing the layout a little bit later, but I'm focused mostly on getting the most benefit for my my individual. Basically, I'm trying to extract the most out of each of these regions, and given the fact that the Cosmite, the food, there's going to be a pirate army for me to deal with, I'm going to have to clear out the abandoned quarry and the hydro plant, even though I don't actually have an army to be able to claim it for several turns. Basically, it's just I just don't see a credible path forward for me to be able to actually exploit what I need out of these regions. So in this case, we'll work on getting the... Oh, you know what? We're probably not going to be able to get the Cosmite, because I've already moved 2 out. So yeah, I changed my mind. I am going to take this. I would have maybe preferred the 2 energy, but I forgot that I've already closed off the possibility of that being an acquisition, unless they've changed how far you can annex. Maybe. Within 2 sectors of the colony center. So colony sector here, 1, 2, 1, 2. There's no credible path that gets me here. It looks like it should, right? But it's just this little border here that spoils it. So this is fine. We've got 1, 2, probably 3, 4, or alternatively 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on how things go with the growth. it's not a bad time. So I do want to try and befriend the growth if I can, but given the fact that we have active hostilities at the moment, it's not necessarily a bad time to make hay with the current, with the fact that I'm able to sort of invade their territories without a lot of consequence. But this is really neat. So I mean, I'm only 6 turns in, which is about par for the course for me doing this stuff, but I would say out of all the new factions that have been brought in, the Oathbound are probably the ones that I'm the most interested in. I'm also really intrigued by how this scenario is set up, because it feels like every enemy that I'm going against has been specifically designed to sort of counter the abilities that this army has. So it's been neat to sort of just be thrown into the deep end and try and have to figure out how everything works. And I'm going to be really interested to see what the other 2 colonies get done. So overall plan is I think we're going to finish up this sector. There's not a huge reason for me to take out the growth and enchanting fields, but they're also kind of a target of opportunity. Big reason for me to go and take out the overgrown biodome. It's a very likely expansion target because of the Cosmite. It also has a pair of hopper hounds, which I'm going to be able to gobble up. I don't think my distance is quite enough. Well, you know what? We'll see what the distance looks like after I finish the fight here. If we don't have to give up a lot of health to be able to take out the shrine, maybe we do make our move on the hopper hounds. And again, I'm really trying to figure out what happens when we're at war with a faction like this. What kind of threat they're generating in terms of just being able to spin out units to come after us, because Townsend Folly is by far the weakest, and it's also my capital, so that's not a good state to be in. I'm still going to use this unit as a scout. Again, I feel very nervous doing that because there's lots of stuff that can potentially eat it, but if we can get an idea of what we're up against once we build the sweet grain. So right now we're waiting, or sweet grain mush. Right now we're waiting for 6 turns to get that done. If it seems like it's a fairly straightforward endeavor, then we can gear up Townsend Folly to get that done. We can sort of move the unit in right away. If it looks like there's a fight on our hands, well then we just use the extra turns to kind of clear out the immediate threats to Damister. That gives us a chance to build up our units over here, and then we can turn around our units and do the delivery. So in this case, I'm not necessarily doing myself any favors by rushing the production until I know exactly how long it's going to take me to get to the objective. And then of course the game will just throw me all of the fun that comes in. But yeah, the Oathbound are really cool, and I think the thing that's funny about all of this is it's there's a new damage type, there's an entropy damage type, there's a new race, the Oathbound. There is the changes to the technology tree. I believe that just came in with the patch because we were affected by that in the Amazon game. The funny thing about this one is it almost feels like the new campaign and the new race is kind of like the minor improvement. And it came in with the patch here, but this new Empire mode. I'll actually, I'll tell you what, I'll give you, I'm not going to be able to spend much time on it, but let's take a quick look at what it looks like. So, example, Empire, is there like a question mark or something of an example of, we'll take an I. So this, of course, is a big one for me. So,
I would never want to belong to any club.
Iziamami? Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Thank you very much for the follow. So, again, I don't actually 100% know how this works yet. But you can sort of see here, right? Conquer a new world. We're given, I think, 3 options. Yeah, 3. It gives us some indications in terms of complexity and whatnot. It's just like setting up a planet. It's like setting up just a one-off. But then you've got these traits here. So the planet still features an intact global imaging satellite array, letting new arrivals easily map the surface geographically. No secrets. Swift action. So these are things that you can do. Void Tech has contacted your diplomats, claiming that terrible events are set in motion, and that unless a rival empire is destroyed before the 20th cycle, there will be dire consequences. Defeating another empire before turn 20 passes grants you a massive imperial renown and experience boost. Completing the secondary objective will trigger a victory condition. Brutally cunning. The Syndicate are a culture of subterfuge and cunning. Prove your cunning to secure their favor. Each covert operation successfully launched grants you substantial imperial renown and experience boost. Again, these are different for... Notice that these are related to races and techs. Rule the waves. You notice that there's different... there's kind of different secondary objectives here. And then I'm not 100% sure how the experience works on here, but I think we get to... Yeah, we get to mess with that a little. Let's just do normal. So now we can select a commander. Let's do... I like the Oathbound. And now, choose your requisition items. These items can be bought in the game for Imperial Renown. So, again, I don't mean to suggest I really understand how this mode works. I got up to about this menu to take a quick peek, but I like the implication about this, right? So you get to... I'm actually not quite sure where I track my renown. Apparently I can't bring items belonging to your hero's rest or secret tech... Oh, right. So these are the extra things I get. So if I just... I'm just going to try and bring in as many expensive things as I can. So yeah, I'm going to have to figure out a little bit about how these things work. But you can see here, you get more units, operations, and mods. You get a certain degree of customization, and it looks like the commander that you select is individual to each planet. So it's not so much that your empire is dedicated to one race. It looks like you're bringing together sort of a new star union. Overall, though, so again, I haven't actually played this mode yet, but I like this idea of sort of a way of doing New Planet that still gives you the persistence of a campaign. I actually think that's a really neat touch, and it's one I'm really looking forward to trying out on my own, save for the fact that I just think the campaign's really interesting, and I would like to see more of I'd like to see more of Star Kings before I go and unfound a new empire. But like I said, there's lots of Planetfall for me to look at, and to a certain extent, the stuff I'm looking at is maybe not the stuff I'm as interested overall for the longevity of Planetfall. But I figure the new campaign is always the best way to learn a new species. I'd like to take a minute and say thank you very much, all of you, for watching. I'm sorry you don't get a chance to hear the music. I'm just trying to find someone to host tonight. I was pleasantly surprised by how many people are checking out the new Planetfall stuff. I'm going to be doing this every Monday. I'd like to do a little bit more, but the truth of the matter is that a Canadian developer reached out with a key for a new game. It's a strategy game that I'm really interested in, and I think you guys will really like it. So Wednesday I'm going to be dedicated to that. Friday I may be doing that, or I may be doing Cloudpunk. But I can tell you for sure that we'll be doing Planetfall on Mondays for sure. Any additional days, I'll obviously say that on I'll say that on the Wednesday or Friday. But I think again, I'm really looking forward to doing more of this, and it is only because I have a wonderful opportunity to do what I think is a really interesting game that really just keeps me from doing more. But that's fine. We've plenty of time. Just to maybe reiterate a little bit of what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the week. So tomorrow I know who I'm going to be hosting now. So tonight was Planetfall. Tomorrow there's going to be the vodcast for Morrowind. That has been recorded, and I've actually confirmed that that's also uploaded to Twitch. So for sure that's going to be happening around 7 o'clock. The high definition version's always on YouTube. Wednesday, this mystery game I'm talking about, And Friday is the big question mark. It might be the mystery game again. It might be Cloudpunk, because I would like to finish Cloudpunk. And depending on how it goes, if I can get away with it, I'd love to try and put in some extra streams this week. But I have also got some really interesting projects that both from some old professors I had of classics, some game-related projects. There's some other stuff going on in the background. Some of you got a chance to see it last week during the Dirty Rectangles presentation on valuing wish lists. There's a lot going on. So anytime I'm spending away from cast, I assure you, is dedicated to doing some stuff that you guys might find interesting in the next little while. So nobody else is doing Age of Wonders Planetfall, which I think is a damn shame, because Star Kings is probably my favorite out of the the DLC that's been released so far. Maybe just because it's the newest, but we've got Night Valian, who is streaming tonight. Now, it's going to be a change of pace, so he's going to be doing some more Hitman, but he's a really relaxed streamer. He is, I think, a lot of fun to watch. He's done some puzzle games. He did Outer Wilds, which I really enjoyed. And he's also sort of getting started on this. So if I can give him a bit of a host, if I can send a friendly audience like you off to him, I'd love to take the opportunity. So I know it's not Planetfall. Sadly, I can't give you that. But I can give you the next best thing, which is someone who's a lot of fun to hang out with. And I'd love it if you guys would come along on the raid, just to give him a little bit of a boost. See if maybe that's something that you're interested in hanging out a little bit longer for. For those of you just here for Planetfall, again, I'll see you in a week at the most. For those of you here for me, I'll see some of you for the pre-recording on Tuesday, and then for the rest of you, I'll see you all on Wednesday. So have a good night, guys, and see you in the next 2 or 3 days.